21 teams and 119 riders ready for the off in the 2017 edition of La Course by the Tour de France. It's the first time in the 4-year history of this race that we've come to the Alps, that we've had a climb, and it is so difficult to try and pick a favourite. I've been looking down at names like Elisa Longo-Borghini, Shana Gillow, Sabrina Stultins, Ashley Moolman-Pasio. There's Megan Guarnier, Annemiek van Vleuten, Amanda Spratt, Kasia Niewiadoma, the superstar from Poland at the minute. The big missing factor, though, is the winner of the Giro d'Italia, Anna van der Breggen, winner of this race on the Champs-Élysées 2 years ago. She's the leader of the Women's World Tour, so she has the jersey at the moment. It's a real shame she's not here, but after a harrowing Giro d'Italia that really sort of tested to the limit, winning it wonderfully well over 10 stages, you can sort of understand why this race is not a programme.
I think she's taken a well-deserved break. So this season, she's leading the Women's World Tour. She's won the Amstel Gold Race, Flèche Wallonne, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Women's Tour of California, and the Women's Giro. So the early part of the season, there are quite a few different winners in the Women's World Tour, but then she's been dominating recently, and she's got such a strong team around her as well. The Boels-Dolmans team have actually still got some really good options here today, so I think Megan Guarnier could be a really good one to look out.
So there goes the flag, and Boels-Dolmans do lead the Women's World Tour. Can they do something today with Megan Guarnier? Lizzie Deignan is here, Chantal Black as well, Caroline Canuel. They've got a really interesting team. It's interesting to see how this is going to be raced as well. Remember, we've got small teams for such a big mountain climb. When we're used to watching the big stages at the Tour de France or the Giro, we see teams of 8, 9 riders up there, everyone pacing their riders. The tactics for this race could be very different because we've got a couple of teams with just 4 riders here.
Yeah, so the minimum start will be to have 4 riders in your team. So there'll be teams that perhaps have got some riders injured or ill, and it's that part in the season where some riders are taking a break. And July is actually a really busy month in the women's cycling calendar. So there's already been 3 stage races this month. There was the Giro, which was the big one. Then there's just been 2 coinciding with each other.
Tour du Féminin, I think, happened last week as well.
There's been one in Belgium and one in Germany. So that it's actually a busy month of racing. So you've obviously got the teams with a pure climber that will have been targeting this, but there's also a lot of other teams that are maybe feeling a bit more thin on the ground at this point in the season. But still a really good field. Still a lot of people that I've highlighted here as potential winners, and I think we're all excited to see how it plays out on that climb.
Well, Elisa Longo-Borghini did finish 2nd in the Giro d'Italia. She rides for Wiggle High 5. She's wearing number 1 today. Look out for her. Top support riders, and a good card to play with Claudia Lichtenberg in the same team too. Annemiek van Vleuten, remember, who we all remember for the Olympic Games and that awful crash. I remember hot and mouth stuff when we were commentating and hoping that she was going to be okay. It was Anna van der Breggen, her teammate, who took the Olympic gold on that day. She's having a good season as well as Van Vleuten. She was 3rd at the Giro d'Italia, and she certainly has to be one of the favourites for a very strong Orica Scott team who have Amanda Spratt as well.
Yeah, I'd say Annemiek van Vleuten is probably my favourite. 3rd at the Giro, won the mountains classification, won 2 stages, including the time trial stage. But the time trial stage went up a really brutal climb with gradients hitting 30%. So it really was a climber's time trial. And as we know from Rio, from the Olympic road race, she was climbing so well there. And she's somebody I highlighted a while ago as a favourite today. But as we all know, sometimes being the favourite doesn't always make it easy. It means everyone's going to be looking at you and looking at your team. And yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
We'll see how that goes. The Giro d'Italia with a mountain time trial and a horrific gradient. That's why we all love it. So 65 kilometres to go, and you can see the scenery all set for a terrific, terrific day. 67 kilometres this race. Some people saying it's a little short. What's your view on it?
It is short, I'm not going to deny.
Well, we've got first attack anyway. Française des Jeux up the road. Française des Jeux, who have taken on the Futuroscope team this year. That's going to be followed straight away. And if this is full gas from the off, relating to the chat we're just starting then about this being a short race, then there are going to be riders all over the road.
Yeah, well, with it is short. Personally, I think having ridden the full course, although women are more than capable of riding that, I actually think this will produce an exciting race, and I don't think it's a massive problem. But with it being that shorter distance, women are normally racing 120, 140, even 150 kilometre races. So everyone's going to want to be making it a hard race, getting an early breakaway. Those that know they're not the best climbers in the world will be thinking, right, well, I've got a chance now on these roads to try and get an early break. So I think it's going to be quite aggressive racing the whole way. I think there's people going to be respecting the climb, but at the same time, because it isn't a massively long day out, there's not much to lose by just going early.
Well, it's such a difficult race to predict, as we mentioned. You can send us your predictions on Twitter. We can go through them later on as we're seeing the race develop. Remember, it's at Eurosport_UK on Twitter. It's at Joe Relsel-Shand for the commentator next to me, and at Rob Hatch TV at this side of the commentary box. Early start then, no breakaway just yet. And with it being such a short race, can you see us having a breakaway in this race, or is it all going to be raced from the front today?
There will be riders wanting to get in a breakaway. There'll be people wanting to get up the road so that they could be up the road on the climb for their climber when the race comes to the climb. There'll be people knowing that they're not the best climbers in the world, so thinking this is their only chance. There'll be people knowing that it's live TV and wanting to get their sponsor jersey on the TV. So I think people will want to be attacking. But this road, it is very fast. It is mainly slightly downhill the whole way. It's going to be hard to get away on this particular section of road.
High-tech products try to send riders all up the road. They're one of the teams who've only brought 4 riders here. Cervelo Bigla as well, with a couple of riders at the front of the peloton. Cervelo Bigla been one of the big active teams. Ashley Moorman, another of the favourites riding for them. Ashley Moorman Passio, the South African star. Good support team of 5 riders with her as well. Likes of Clara Koppenberg and Christina Perigtold. And the Alps look absolutely glorious. Canyon SRAM, brand new kit for them today. Rafa have produced a new kit based on the Rafa 100 series. That was Tiffany Cromwell with a bit of a turn on the front. She's third wheel on the left-hand side now, wearing the sort of dark navy jersey with the pink stroke red spots on the sleeves. That's the new kit just for this race. Rather like we've seen with Team Sky at the Tour de France as well. Seems to be the fashion thing to do at the minute, to change your kit when you come to the Tour de France. 63 Ks to go, and this is the first sign that we've seen a couple of gaps in the wheels.
Yeah, there's quite a few riders here, obviously, with the same agenda to get in this early break. And like I say, this fast road won't make it any easier to break away. There are a couple of kicks up, but because it is so wide and fast, it's one of those roads that you can sort of roll along in the bunch and you feel okay. So in the Etape on Sunday, this road, just following the wheels, you're going fast. You know, you're reaching high speeds on this sort of road anyway. So yeah, a lot of riders are giving it a go. There's a few splits there, but that's all just going to come back together now by the looks of things.
Well, we're heading up a road today that was built in 1897. What a feat of engineering up the Izoire, and we've seen it in the Tour de France for years and years and years now. Used 30-odd times in the Tour so far. In the meantime, Orica Scott just biding their time at the back. We have the French national team here as well today, by the way. They're the 21st of the teams. They have 6 of their riders there, led by Marjolaine Bazin. Cervelo Bigla on the left-hand side. Now Bulls, Dolmans and WM3. Now WM3 is the team that's looking after both Marianne Vos, but most probably on a course like this, Kasia Niewiadoma.
Yeah, she's a really exciting rider, and she could potentially go into the lead for the Women's World Tour if she won today, with Anna van der Breggen not here. So I think there's a lot of eyes on her. And with having Marianne Vos support you, I mean, what better rider could you get? And Marianne Vos is a rider that I don't think she'd call herself the favourite on this sort of race, but she's the sort of rider you can never discount. She's so good at climbing, she's good at descending, she's good at riding in a bunch, she's good at everything. She's got the whole package. So what better teammate could you have than her?
Well, she is good at everything, on the road, off the road. Yeah. She's a superstar, and I've said it before live on television, I regard her as probably the most successful cyclist in any term since Eddie Merckx.
Yeah, I think she's won Olympic titles on the road and on the track, world titles, cyclocross, road. I mean, medalled at the World Road Race so many years in a row, as well as wins. Incredibly consistent rider, incredibly competitive, and really fascinating to watch. Like the power that she has when she attacks and when she jumps away. It really is. It is fascinating to see someone with that much power. She does make races exciting, and I think possibly she used to perhaps change the dynamic of racing when she was there. Other riders would don't know if I'd say they feared her, but it would be like, oh, Vos is here, how are we going to beat her? It would make the race slightly less open. But as the years have gone by, there's now a lot of riders we're looking at as favourites here, and you know, she could be a fantastic support for her teammates. That's a strong team to be looking at. That they'll definitely be going for the win today.
Tiffany Cromwell still hanging around at the front of the bunch, second, third wheel. It looks like it's her job at the minute to set the pace on this flat stroke false flat that we're going to come in. And we were just talking in the break about the climb coming up, and you were saying, well, yep, only 14 kilometers of this climb to Izoire are classified, but it's really about a 23-kilometer climb, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll cut across to Guiest, and it's pretty much climbing all the way from there. There's a steep bit through the town, then it levels up a little bit through a couple of tunnels which are a bit faster, but then it's falls flat all the way through the valley, sort of 2 or 3% the whole way. And during the etape, we had quite a decent tailwind, so it wasn't too bad. But I'm not sure what the wind's like today, but that's it's not easy. Even if you're riding in the wheels, you're still putting out some good power to still ride up those sort of gradients that, even though they're not the proper climb, your legs will feeling it. But by the time you hit the actual climb, your legs will know that you've actually been climbing quite a few kilometers already.
Well, that wind was very strong for the last 2 days, actually. It was a headwind in the finish of the Tour de France stage yesterday when they came down off the Galibier. As you see, Charlotte Bravard towards the back of the peloton, the French champion, wearing the Française des Jeux jersey at the front. Well, we're 7 kilometers in, and we're at Guerrière. About to descend very briefly for a couple of kilometers into the valley again. Then we begin that relatively flat section, a couple of lumps and bumps before we get to Guiestre. And then the final third of this stage is all uphill to Izoire. And I'm saying stage because it is a two-stage race this year, La Course. We have this time trial on Saturday, which is something new, not just in women's cycling, but in cycling in general. We saw it at the Hammer Series with the men in Limburg just a few weeks ago. It seemed to go down fairly well, albeit it was a team time trial event then. It's sort of something we might normally see on the track. It's a bit of a pursuit, isn't it? I think they're saying the top 20 riders today, or everybody within 5 minutes of each other, will set off in reverse order in a time trial in Marseille on Saturday. Have I got that right? Yeah,
so I think everyone's a little bit slightly confused. So it's going to be on road bikes rather than time trial bikes. Whoever's got the biggest lead up Col d'Izoire today will get the biggest head start. I think at first there was a few raised eyebrows at this format, a few people thinking, what is this? And why not have just perhaps a normal time trial stage? But I actually think it probably opens up options for some teams who haven't got a pure climber here today, who perhaps know they're probably not going to get the victory today. It gives them the option of perhaps getting some riders in the top 20, and then that could give them a strong team on Saturday. Having said that, only today gets World Tour points, so that doesn't apply for Saturday. But I think the official winner of La Course will be the winner from Saturday, just to make things a little bit confusing there.
Well, the United States champion at the back, riding for Team Velo Concept, is Amber Neben. She was wearing 181 there. Just alongside her, already on the back of the peloton, Marjolaine Bazin. That's because Wiggle High Five have come to the front of the peloton, and they've started to up the pace. It's the Frenchwoman, Audrey Cordon-Rago, former national champion at the front, just setting the pace for Wiggle High Five. The British-based team, who we think today are probably riding for Elisa Longo Borghini. She's 5th in the World Tour standings at the moment. The Italian, a very solid rider. And of course, they've got a lot of experience in that team in terms of domestiques. Lucy Garner, Amy Roberts, Amy Cure as well. And an interesting card to play in Claudia Lichtenberg too.
Yeah, I think we just saw Amy Roberts on the front as well, and Amy's been on the Wiggle High Five team since it started back in 2013, so she'll know all the riders really well. She's someone that I know quite well from a track background as well. She'll probably have a job early on, similar to Lucy. They'll probably be looking after their leaders, which yeah, I would say Elisa Longo Borghini. She got bronze in the Olympic road race in Rio last year, second overall at the Giro, so definitely somebody that you'd highlight straight away as the rider that could perform on a climb like this.
Now here's that dip we were talking about down into the valley. Talking of Amy Roberts, 22 years of age now, the British rider. She's raced 22 days this year. She's been racing all the way since January, so she's had a long start to the season. As you see, the French champion back to the front for Française des Jeux. Charlotte Bravard. trying to pull things along. So it's pretty clear now that there are 2 or 3 teams who are keen to set a high pace at the start and try and shed some of the dead wood at the back.
Yeah, they'll want to get rid of some people, but also perhaps just get a rider up the road so that they've got an extra teammate on that climb. For the riders that know they're not going to be the best climbers in the world, if they can get in an early break, get a head start in that climb, they'll be there for their riders to ride across to them. So there's probably a few teams with that agenda, which is making this section quite fast, but no one's quite been able to break the elastic yet.
And Van Eben again at the back of the pedals. We can see the stars and the stripes of the United States champions jersey. Here's Tiffany Cromwell now really pushing it on, and a little bit of a group coming away. That gap has to be closed quickly.
Yeah, Tiffany Cromwell's really exciting rider to watch, always very aggressive, lives down in Monaco, trains in the mountains all the time, so she'll really want to put in a good showing here. She has just finished a stage race in Germany though. She started the Giro, pulled out early to go and target the race in Germany, then had a stage win there, so she's in good form, and now she's here today. So she's always a rider that gets right involved in the racing, always a good one to watch, always a good bet. Always a good bet to watch out for.
Well, talking about getting 3 riders up the road, look at this from Team Sunweb. One of their riders up the road is a former second place finisher. She's a sprinter, Leah Kirkman. She's just at the back of this group. They're the team wearing the black and white jerseys, Team Sunweb, and Team Sunweb in the Tour de France have been on fire at the minute, riding for Warren Barguil and Michael Matthews. The women's team started this race in equally aggressive manner. 3 of their 6 riders in that 6-rider group just slipping off the front of the peloton there. Today, we think they're riding for Sabrina Stultins, or at least that's what Hans Timmermans, their director sportif, told us. So he was either telling us something to send us down the wrong scent, or he was telling us the truth. But Hans Timmermans said that they're hoping for a top 10 at least today with Sabrina Stultins.
They've also got Molly Weaver in their team, and she had a really bad accident earlier this season, was hospitalised. I think that was out in Spain. So to see her back racing, it is really exciting now, and she's always a rider to get stuck in as well.
Well, they're a top team, Sunweb team from Germany. You can see Kirkman on the left-hand side, Cromwell on the right as well, still giving her all. We see the Swedish champion just behind as well. And some of the wonderful scenery we're going to be looking at all day. And it's nice to be able to see it after a very rainy start today. This is Isabel Beckers towards the back. She's riding for Lotto Soudal. Just 4 riders with them today. Puk Monen, Jessie Daams and Julie van der Velde. 3 Belgians and a Dutch woman. Also off the back of the peloton there, 46 is Leah Thor-Wilson, United States rider racing for Canyon SRAM. Good pace being set on the front. So again, Française des Jeux, Canyon SRAM, Team Sunweb, all very keen to push on here. Not too much action from Bulls Dolmans yet.
Not yet. It is really strong out there. It looks like it is really fast. And I mean, there are already riders getting dropped. You can just tell the speed of the peloton is so high at the moment.
55 kilometers to go. And remember, the climb itself starts with around 23, 24 Ks remaining. It's going to be a drag race into the climb. Who's going to be left? Are we going to have any pawns up the road? Don't go away. La course by Le Tour de France is hotting. Özkan Zigat off the back of the peloton. A peloton that is so strung out. We're seeing gaps in wheels all over the place. And if you don't make the front group now, you might be in trouble, Joe.
This is really hard racing. The peloton is literally in one long line. There's not much room for sheltering. I think there might have been some riders thinking, right, nice, easy ride, then into a big climb. But the racing has been on start. There's a lot of people wanting to force a breakaway. That there's a split here. These riders all trying to get back on. They're going to make it now, but they're already making it hard for themselves. They're already putting extra work in their legs, which they don't really need ahead of that big climb.
Yeah, and all those extra efforts you have to make to chase on, or you will probably pay for them on the Issoire. It's a very unforgiving mountain, as you found out a few days ago.
It is. So in the etape on Sunday early on, I was quite enjoying getting involved in some of the faster groups coming past in this section and jumping on the wheels, and yeah, I paid for it later on. So while this is obviously a shorter race, still in terms of time, it's still going to be quite a decent length race. So there's not much room for wasting energy, but there's a lot of people keen to make this hard, and so far that seems to be working.
Well, we've seen the World Time Trial champion off the back as well early on, and it just shows how quick it is.
Yeah, Anne Van Eben's been sat at the back. She's a bit of a nervous rider, but also incredibly strong. So if anybody can sit there, it's her. But it'll be interesting. She's another rider I highlighted to see how she's going to go on this climb. But yeah, she's the current World Time Trial champion, former World Time Trial champion 2008 as well, I think.
Astana getting involved as well. A couple of teams who we haven't seen too close to the front of the peloton yet. Lensworld Quarter and BTC City Ljubljana. Astana today with 3 Italian riders, 2 from Kazakhstan, and they've got Olena Pavyukina from Azerbaijan as well, a well-known name. It remains to be seen how she's going to go on this sort of course. First little bit of an impasse after the second group gets back in. 50 kilometers to go. We've already had almost 20 Ks here. No break has been allowed to go just yet.
Yeah, it's all bunched up a bit now. There's little bit of a lull in action. I think a lot of people were trying to make something work early on, and it just wasn't possible. But like you saw, a lot of riders sort of in trouble early on with that pace. In trouble, Anna Plichter conversation with the car. The car's already left her in front. Not a good start for the Polish rider, riding in support of her compatriot Niewiadoma. She rides for WM3 Pro Cycling. They have Jeroen Blevens in the car directing operation. He was the man in conversation with her there. Remember Marianne Vos up the road. Niewiadoma, we think, will be the protected rider. And this is where we're headed. The Col de l'Izoire. From the high Alps, the Haute-Alpes region. And of course, a finish like this, I've been trying to think overnight. In any sort of racing worldwide, I cannot think of another one-day race up one of the highest mountains in the world. We have classics, of course, like the Giro di Lombardia. We have classics in Belgium, the Amstel Gold Race, which is uphill and down dale all day. But a race into one single climb, this is something pretty unique. It is. It's something that's typical in stage racing. There's the Women's Giro Rosa, which we've just had, which I don't think went over anything this big this year, but it has done in the past. But to have a single day race, well, technically there are the 2 stages, but I think most teams will be focusing on this as a single day race, pretty much going down the valley and up this big climb. It's never really been done before, which has led to a lot of people talking about it, and that's exciting for me, because while there have been people grumbling that perhaps it's a bit short, and you know, obviously sprinters are now missing out with no Champs-Élysées stage, I've had far more people talk to me about this race than they have about any other race in the women's calendar. So it has got so many more people talking about women's cycling than any other race in the year so far, which is a good thing, and that's what we need. We need more people watching the sport, and if it's going to attract more people to watch it, because it is something a bit different and it is something a bit new and no one quite knows what's going to happen, then that's a good thing. ASO did decide to change the game this year, and we talked about this being a one-day race, and one-day race with a caveat maybe that we are going to have another race. The one-day section here is the only section of this 2-day race where we're going to have everybody racing, and we're going to have UCI Women's World Tour points. We're in the 2nd year of this World Tour now. And of course, those points are vital for the development of the sport, the money that they're going to bring in. And talking of money, you talked about it very early on, as we see Jessie Daams here. Her sponsor's name's just been on the telly. Yeah, exactly. Having a race on live TV for women's cycling, unfortunately, is still rare. There are a lot of races which are progressing. There's a lot of races with highlights programs. The Women's Tour in the UK has been going for a few years now with highlights every evening. But to have a live race from the start, every single attack is being seen. Every single person is getting their jersey on TV, and that provides a different sort of motivation as well. And although it is a new event and no one's really quite sure how it's going to go, it is still a huge opportunity, and it's got lots of people talking about it. And well, there's Amy Roberts again coming up. Now on the front for Wiggle High Five, and you know, it's another opportunity to get your name out there. Well, Bulls Dolman's there as well, and we wondered how long it would be before they came towards the front of the peloton and began to ride. The big names are at the front now. Here comes Marianne Vos on the right hand side, WM3. She's just joining her teammates. We've got 5 riders. In the meantime, mechanical problem for Amy Cure. Amy Cure, the Australian rider, riding for Wiggle High Five, holding up a hand. Looks like thinking front wheel puncture maybe. We'll have to check. No, something to do with the chain. Oh, yeah, the chain's gone. Yeah. Yeah, Amy's a world-class track rider, races Team Pursuit, the same as I used to do. I think she was the first ever rider to medal in all 6 different endurance disciplines at the World Championships. So over the course of her career, she's medalled in everything from individual pursuit, team pursuit, Madison, points race. So this is going to be a challenge for her today, but she's part of a strong team, and that she's quickly back on a new bike, chasing back in the convoy to get back to the peloton. Well, the good thing is she's in the car. She's going to try and get through there and trying back to the peloton. It's so strong out, and of course we haven't had that break yet, so there is a big convoy of cars behind still. Let's hope she gets back on. Nice quick bike change anyway. Amy Cure with that mechanical problem, while her team were one of the teams riding on the front.
Interesting to see if they get on the radio very quickly. And the pace is stopped by her team, remember, but also WM3 were there. We talked about bulls there. Chantal Black was doing quite a bit of work as well in the Dutch champions jersey.
Yeah, we can see Chantal Black at the front and Lizzie Daglin just behind her. So this is going to be a big target for that team. Boels Dolmans have been so strong all year. Every race, everybody looks to them. What are they going to do this race? And it comes with an expectation now to get a good result. So it's definitely a little bit of weight on their shoulders. Even though they've not got Anne van der Breggen, they've still got so many strong riders. So they're still going to be wanting a really good result today.
And the World Tour star from last year, Megan Guarnier, probably their main protected rider for today. But yeah, watch out for the Canadian, Caroline Canuel as well. And they've got all of these strong classics riders we talked about on the flat to try and set things up. Nikki Bramier's there, of course, excellent as a crosser as well.
Yeah.
We've got Lizzie Deignan we talked about. And we're interested to see how she performs on the climb, because you never know.
Yeah.
Certainly has it in her.
Yeah.
And Christina Majerus we saw with the Luxembourg jersey on, riding at the front as well.
Yeah, Lizzie is a rider. I wouldn't call her a pure climber, but again, she's someone that you can never discount. And if she is working for a teammate, again, an incredible domestique, similar to Marianne Vos, someone that can do a bit of everything. And if she's going to be working for Megan today, then that is going to be a really tough pairing to beat. Equally, she's someone not to write off.
And she's just bringing her team up on the left-hand side of the peloton, as you can see.
Yeah, she's very, very good at riding in a bunch as well, Lizzie. She doesn't get nerves by all the other riders, but also she's strong enough to push her own wind, but she's also very good, very skillful at weaving her way through. And she'll be really useful for the team for protecting the leaders.
Now, Anna Sandersteban at the back here for Ale Cipollini. She's probably the rider that they're looking to put into the right position today. Maybe a favourite on a second tier. She's a very good Spanish rider. Just with a little bit of mechanical problem coming back from the car. She's made it towards the back of the peloton. 45 kilometres still to go. We're about 20 Ks from the start of the climb proper. Thanks for all your tweets, by the way. And Stephen Fry, well known in the world of women's cycling, saying it's Van Vleuten and Moment Passio for him today. Keep those tweets coming at Eurosport_UK, at Joe Rousel-Shan, at Rob Hatch TV. And the peloton again is strung out. Narrower roads though this time.
Yeah, we've turned off the main roads, went over the level crossing onto some smaller roads now. There's a little bit of a climb through here from what I can remember, but nothing really significant, nothing that will phase any of these riders.
Attack off the front then from Team Sunweb. Could well be Kirkman. We'll have to have a good look at that.
Yeah, everyone's still trying to get away in a break. Everyone's not giving up yet. Right from the start, we've had attacks, and they're still trying to get up the road before that climb.
There's a Boels Dolman rider off the front there, off in pursuit as well. You can see how long the line the peloton is at the moment. Another rider called out. There's Janneke Ensink at the back for Ale Cipollini. Sandersteban just 2 wheels in front of her, and if she missed a move, woof, bad news for her team. Three riders off the front, but a break is not being allowed to go easy today. It's been full gas racing since the start. Well, first little look around. Who's going to chase? No, we're not chasing, you chase. And that could help a rider get up the road. But I think the rider here for Sunweb would want a little bit of company. Yeah,
I think she would. So that's Christine Majerus on the front there for Boels Dolmans in the Luxembourg national champion kit. And they look happy to let one rider go and perhaps let another team do some chasing.
Yeah, for Team Sunweb, Rosanna Slick, the Dutch rider who's got up the road. Well, I think she'll want some company, as we said, but for a team at least, her team doesn't have to do any chasing now. They can sit in the peloton and coast along. Yeah, but they've got a rider in the break on live TV. This is a big thing for them. We can see another rider trying to go across now. I'm not quite sure who that is from this distance. Well, this is the moment to bridge it. Certainly if the peloton are sitting up and looking around behind. Of course, if more and more riders get across, then you get more and more teams interested in doing the chasing. It's a rider from Astana who's coming across, the team from Kazakhstan. Got their full complement of 6 riders. They've been around in the women's peloton for quite a while now, Astana. Yeah, I can still see Boels Dolmans at the front there, just keeping things controlled. They're not getting much of a gap here, but the images could be deceiving. Well, Rosanna Slick in the black and white at the front, just behind in the light blue, riding for Astana. Let's get a check of which rider it is. In fact, it's number 125, and that is Natalia Safutudinova, rider from Kazakhstan, riding for Astana women's team. So that's better for Rosanna Slick. She looks around, finds some company, something to work with, and they have to work together to gain an advantage.
Yes, and there's
another rider coming across. It looks like it could be Black. Let's just double check. No, and that rider has brought it back. It is Chantal Black.
Yeah, Chantal Black for Balsdormans, Dutch national champion, straight up there. As soon as she wanted to go across, she's made that jump. So now Balsdormans have got somebody there as well. But how much gap are they going to get now?
Well, that is the question. Good group this working together, but is it going to be too numerous for the rest? You can see that WN3 have missed this move, desperately trying to get a rider up the road.
There's a Canyon SRAM rider tucked in as well that we just caught a glimpse of as well. So now, yeah.
Oh, and a crash. Crash, rider down. It's not what we want to see. And all of that chaos, trying to get away, trying to get into the break, trying to get up the road. It looks like it could be Molly Weaver.
Oh, dear.
We'll have to double check that. And again, it's narrow roads this, fighting for position, trying to get up the road, and it happens. Touch of wheels, and you're suddenly down.
Yeah, we've gone from a very wide, very fast road onto a far narrower road here, so a lot more fighting for position. And like I say, the race has been on all the way. It is very fast, and yeah, everyone wants to be in this break. Everyone wants to be in the best position. Yeah, and touches of wheels do happen, unfortunately. I hope she's okay.
Well, we'll have to double check on that, but the way this race is going, the pace that this race is going, it didn't look good anyway, but if she's to get on her bike, she faces an absolute heck of a chase to get back on.
She does. Look at the length of that peloton now, all strung out, a few gaps as well, everyone pretty much in single file. This is really on, the race is really on.
It really is a drag race into the bottom of Izoire. 75 here towards the back. Riding for Lenswold Quarter is Nathalie Verschelden of Belgium. They have Tatiana Guderzo in their team, another interesting rider to watch for Italy and Lenswold Quarter.
I think we just saw Amy Cure there just at the back of the peloton, so she has made it back, but it is a long way back to the front from there.
Well, this break isn't going. It is not going, and it isn't going easily. Just 11 seconds, but it's a big group at the minute. 5 riders in there. You get a chasing group with another gap in the wheels behind. A look behind as well. Look behind from Rosanna Slick. And I'm not sure this is going away, you know. Just 11 seconds as riders try to come across. Don't go away. We're approaching the big climb. We're watching a hugely entertaining La Course by Le Tour de France here on this Thursday morning in France. It's the Alps, and we've got 5 riders away. They had about 10 seconds. I can tell you that Chantal Black was up there. Leah Kirkman is there as well. Natalia Safardinova and Rachel Naylan of Orica Scott has been up, but it's being brought back. It's coming back. And we've already had a crash for Team Sunweb. We think that Molly Weaver might have been the rider involved. Oh, shake of the head, and it's already hurting behind for 194, the Brazilian champion Silva Fernandes. This has been a brutal race, Joe.
It has. It's been strung out from the start, pretty much. Riders pretty much riding in single file. Everybody keen to get an early breakaway, which we did think one was going to get away, but it looks like it's all come back together now on this drag, which isn't a significant climb, but not as fast as the early roads that we were racing on before.
So all back together. The road just starts to come up. We've got a couple of little dips before we do get to Guillestre and the climb proper starts.
Yeah, there were a few kicks up like this on the route when I did it on Sunday. It's nothing significant, nothing that will really challenge most of the peloton, but it might provide a bit of a launch pad. And it did kick up quite steep through Guillestre, so that could be another opportunity to try and get away. But then after that, it is pretty much full flat the whole way.
Amy Roberts and Mika Dox at the back. Amy Roberts in the black just being dropped. 83 with them as well is Teresa Medvedova from Slovakia. And there are riders all over the road. Rosanna Slick, who was in that earlier move, is suffering out the back as well. 53 there, Nicola Bluderer. And here is the Swedish champion just behind, Sara Penton, riding for Team Velo Concept Women.
Yes, these riders will try and get back on now on this descent. That wasn't too much of a significant climb, and the front of the peloton seem to be easing up now, so I think they will get back on. But there is a lot tougher to come.
A lot of wind about as well. It's a crosswind at the moment. Not too exposed, though. We don't have the big teams that could try and cause any sorts of echelons or anything. Remember, we're not particularly on the flat, as we see Valentina Scandolada at the back. 63 in front of her is Jessie Dams, riding for Lotto Soudal. And look at this gap up towards the rest of the peloton.
That gap's got, oh dear,
another crash
here on this descent.
Another crash. Rider down from Française des Jeux, that's Victorie Guimont. And just in front of her, We've got number 175. We saw on a screen a minute ago Daniela Reis, the Portuguese rider riding for Lares Wild Deals. And it's just a pinch point. You can see where the road was narrowing. And you mentioned the peloton was bunching up a bit, coming together, maybe just another touch of wheels.
Yeah, they had stood up a little bit over that climb, and as it was bunched up and the road did narrow there a little bit, which when you've got that many riders, those things can just happen, but they seem to be strung up, stringing themselves out again now.
Well, you were talking about the pros and cons of short versus long stage. You've had Phil Oakley writing in on Twitter saying La Course is great, short distances, attacking racing, it's the way to go. More of this and less of the long, boring stuff, he says.
I have to say I'm with him to an extent. I think it's good to have a bit of both, and you get that juxtaposition of the longer stages and the shorter stages. But there's been a lot of talk about this race being this distance, but the geography of the area, you can't have really done a slightly longer loop without doing the full 181 kilometres that the men have got later. And I think this will produce more entertaining racing. And so far we've seen from the start, everybody's been riding hard. The peloton is one long string again right now.
Well, I'd be interested to get the speeds up as soon as we can. Maybe once we've been racing for an hour, we'll get the average over the hour. And it has been a very, very quick start. Lizzie Deignan in fourth wheel, the British champion, is there.
Yeah, there's a couple of Boels Dolmans riders up there. They're always at the head of affairs. Lizzie, like I said, very good rider in a bunch, always in the right place at the right time. She will happily sit in the first few riders all day if that's where she needs to be. So she looks quite comfortable there, and a good place in this bit of a descent, which, as we've seen, these roads are a little bit narrower, and there have been a couple of crashes already.
Well, remember Vos, Van der Breggen, Hosking. We're expecting quite a different style of rider to win this year and be the fourth name on the honours list of La Course by Le Tour de France. We've mentioned that there aren't any other real one-day races on a parcours like this at the minute. This is unique. There's been a lot of uncertainty about both today and the time trial element, but so far this has been highly entertaining, and you can see resurfaced roads. The tap's been down here. You rode it the other day. We've got the Tour de France heading up lane today. La Course now. Very narrow roads, twisty and turny. It's going to be difficult enough, but we're on a little bit of a technicals part of the course right now. Yeah,
a little bit technical here because the roads are a little bit narrow, but soon we'll be getting down to the point where they'll be turning left off to Giest. But yeah, this descent, so we had been climbing a bit, but it wasn't really a significant climb, but there is quite a drop down now before you then really get to a nice low altitude before you start the rest of the climbing for the day.
One long line of riders. The pace is very, very high indeed. Into the final 37 kilometres now, and we're just over 10 Ks from the start of the Mighty Issoire. Still the same teams at the front, really. The big teams with the big riders. Française des Jeux, we've seen Canyon Schramm as well up there. Cervelo Bigler getting riders up. Boels Dolmans, the top team in the world right now, and the leaders of the UCI Women's World Tour 2. Wiggle High Five just lost a couple of riders off the back. We saw mechanical problems. We saw Amy Roberts in trouble, Amy Cure as well. Just down to a few less riders. Elisa Longo Borghini might have to follow a few wheels herself in the peloton for the moment. We're approaching the climb. Non-stop action. This is the calmest it's been so far, though. Just while we're away in the break, we had another couple of attacks. Again, Tiffany Cromwell went. Once more, Chantal Black chased her down. Boels Dolmans don't really want this to get away.
I think they know they've got strong enough riders to all play a part on the climb. They've got such a strong team. I think the problem with this race is there's a lot of unknowns. A lot of the peloton don't really know how strong the strongest climbers are going to be and how their best climb is really going to compare on such a long, such a hard climb as this one. And with it being a one-day race and it all about this climb, I think a lot of teams are just not really sure what to expect. But Boels Dolmans seem to have the confidence that they've got enough cars to play. They're confident in their team leader. They're confident in their other riders that they can just cover things, just keep control of everything. But I know they've got cars to play on that climb.
Well, Team Sunweb, as we look at where we're headed, have had a couple of riders in moves as well. They haven't necessarily been chasing moves down, but they've been trying to get riders in move. They had 3 riders in one move at one point, and we talked about them riding for Sabrina Stultins, but let's not forget Juliette Labou won the Queen stage at the Tour de Féminin last week as well. She can climb. Interesting to see how each team plays this tactically. Now, Kasia Niewiadoma hanging about towards the back on the right-hand side. Little looking around for the car. I wonder if she's looking for team assistance, because certainly she would not want to be out of the game early on.
No, it seems to have calmed down a little bit here. I think we've had all the early fireworks, everybody trying to string it out, everybody trying to get in an early break. And now they're probably realising that it's not long to go before they start approaching the false flat. Although it's not the climb proper, it is climbing for the best part of 30k, and you know we're not far off that now.
Well, they're going to climb up a road that was thought up in the mid-1800s up to the Isoire. Two ways you can climb up. We're going up from Guillestre, but you can climb it directly from Briançon, where we started today. A real myth, a mythical mountain, a legendary mountain in the Tour de France. There is Nivea Doma again looking around. Just moving up on the right-hand side. 23, a teammate at the back is Lauren Kitchen. Just on the right now, taking a drink from the bidon. On the left-hand side is Lucie Lahaye, French rider riding for the national team today.
I think this is a big day for the French riders as well. French national team as well as some French pro teams as well. This is a big day for them to have such a race like this in France. Definitely for me, a lot of riders speak about the UK leading the way in terms of women's racing, with the women's tour being so successful. There's also now a stage of Tour de Yorkshire, but for the French riders, this is a really important day. And
we're yet to have a French winner of La Course.
Yep.
3 editions and no French win just yet, although Pauline Ferrand-Prévot has tried and tried and tried on the Champs-Élysées.
She has.
Now another attack going off the front. This time it's going to be chased down by Cervelo Biglia.
Cervelo have got quite an exciting young rider as well, the Danish rider, number 15, who is currently leading the Women's World Tour young rider standings. So she's another one to look out for. She's got a jersey to defend in the young rider standings. But Ashley Moolman-Passio is a name that's come up time and time again as a rider to watch for this stage. She's a really good climber. Didn't have such a great Giro d'Italia, but I know this is a big race for her, so she's another one to look out for.
Yeah, the rider you're talking about is Cecile Uttrup Ludwig. Riding, of course, today, we think, for Ashley Moolman-Passio, but you never know. A couple of the French national riders still second and third wheel back as things have calmed down a little more. They certainly did before that last attack. The chase is on again. And this is the first time we've had any sort of gap. The rider who's got the gap is Silvia Valsecchi, well known riding for Beepink Gorgias. Valsecchi's been around the Italian scene for quite a while. Peloton chasing behind. Again, though, Valsecchi on her own here, on a hiding to nothing. She needs company.
Yeah, they've relaxed a little bit here. No one's quite so keen, but like I say, we're approaching the point where we're going to be climbing gradually for a long time now, and there's little signs at the side of the roads with the kilometre markings on and the average gradient for the next kilometre. So early on, for the false flat, it will say sort of 2%, 3%, and obviously as you get into the climb proper, you'll see figures of 9% coming at you again and again and again, which is a little bit grim. But a lot of the riders will be excited about that. There'll be a lot that will be waiting for that big climb.
Pardon me, better news for Valsecchi up the front, or at least there was for the moment. You see the Italian champion. Elisa Longo Borghini has kept herself well hidden so far in the peloton. Riding for Wiggle High 5. Just moving up towards the front now as more and more riders go across to try and chase this move. Valsecchi started it off. We had a rider from Alice Paulini go up the road. And it's strung out the peloton once more. There really has been very little let up today. There'll be some tired legs even before we get to the climb.
There will be. The lulls don't last very long. Everyone's still trying to take the opportunities to make a breakaway. They're not giving up yet. They're trying to get that head start while they still can.
Well, Valsecchi moved into fourth wheel behind after her solo effort. She's on the left-hand side with the purple jersey of the Beepink team on. 3 Italian riders in that team. Valsecchi, one of them, as it's all back together again. Umpteenth time that attacks have gone and been brought back. The peloton, one by one, is being whittled down. We started with 119 riders. That's not a 119 rider peloton on the screen now.
No, and it's still a bit strung out there. They're beginning to bunch up again now. Again, Lizzie Dignan at the front, Chantal Black at the front, Boels Dolmans once again up there, Cervelo Biglia as well on the front. They've both got team leaders that they're confident can do a good performance today.
Well, no leisure cycling up the Col d'Isoire today. You could see Fermé, the only one out of all the big passes. The Col d'Alos, I think, will be silent, though, next to it, because anybody who is anybody wants to be near the Isoire and wants to be up there watching these superstars battle it out in La Course by the Tour de France. 164 in the centre of the peloton there. Nicky Bramier riding for Bulls Dolmans. As we said, they lead the World Tour standings, and here we are, Guillestre. And this is where the action itself, we think, will kick off. Kicking off on the left-hand side, another attack. This time from Team Velo Concept. Sinan Nieben towards the back of the peloton early on. You know, they have Linda Willemsen in their ranks, the star time trialist from New Zealand. And it is Linda Willemsen, I think, who's just gone out there. If I remember right, I think she was the Commonwealth champion.
Yeah, Commonwealth time trial champion 2014. Amazing rider, really strong time trialing and climbing. One not to let get away, to be honest. So we'll see how the peloton are going to react now. She's looking over her shoulder. She's not quite sure she wants to be on her own, I don't think.
Well, if she does get some company, that company's probably assured that they're going to have a very, very good ride up the road. She's a former world champion when she was riding with United Healthcare, of course. Now we're getting news that Molly Weaver did indeed crash, and I'm afraid she's out of the race. So bad news for Molly Weaver and Team Sunweb. They're down to 5. Molly Weaver in that crash we saw about 10 kilometres further down the road. Here we are then on the chase. Lens World quota, pardon me.
No one's making a jump over at the moment, but they're not letting her get very far. But I'm not sure how hard she's committing here. She's a really strong rider, but actually with quite a good poker face. So it's hard to tell how hard she's trying, but maybe riding a little bit within herself, just waiting to see if anybody is going to make the jump across.
And you wonder where her form is as well, because she's only raced the Giro this year, just 10 days of racing in it. She did manage to get just outside the top 20 in the general classification as well. Best place was in the time trial. She managed the 13th place in the individual time trial to Sant'Elpidio al Mare, very well-known place in Tirreno Adriatico and Giro d'Italia terms.
She's a very experienced rider. She knows how to peak at the right time as well, so she knows what she's doing. So if she's targeting the World Time Trial Championships this year, she'll be gradually building her form up towards that. And
she'll want to get the jersey back. She had it in 2015, yeah. Lost it for the last couple of years. Of course, she's a former winner of La Route de France overall general classification. She's won the Thüringen Rundfahrt as well back in 2009, and also, if you doubted her prowess in the mountains, doubt it no longer. In 2012, 5 years ago, she won the Giro del Trentino, one of the most mountainous races in the world. So Linda Willemsen at the front. Problems there at the back for one of the riders from Canyon SRAM. That was Barbara Guarischi. We're heading towards the start of the classified climb out of Guillestre. Back in a mo. The big left turn we talked about towards the climb. Inside the final 30 kilometres now of La Course by le Tour de France. And we're seeing riders distanced one by one. An attack from Linda Willemsen off the front, the former Danish star who's been competing for New Zealand for the last 4 years or so now. 32-year-old, has only ridden the Giro d'Italia this year. And there's Marianne Vosser towards the back of the peloton already. Jersey open. Maybe not feeling the legs in the right place just yet. We'll have to see. The race happening certainly at the front though, Joe.
Yeah, Linda is a very dangerous rider. She's very clever. She knows how to peak for races. She knows how to target what she wants to target. And a lot of the peloton will be quite unsure of her form because, like you say, she's not raced much this year. But also she's been a world time trial champion. You know, when she's out on her own, she can keep going. And this is a dangerous move, over 30 seconds already. So a lot of people are going to be looking at each other. How good is she going to be? How long is this going to carry on for? Do we need to chase? Do we need to jump across to her? Or do we leave?
Crash problems again. We've had 2 or 3 crashes in nervous racing so far today. That's Laura Lozano Ramirez from Colombia, running for Serveto Justa. And if you're crashing out at the bottom of the climb, oh, help you getting on, eh? It's not going to be good. There's a bang of the bars back into place. It's a long way to the finish. And of course, being from Colombia, we'll not doubt any climbing prowess, but it's a hard race from here on in for Laura Lozano.
And it's uphill all the way now. I mean, this is full flat. There's a couple of dips, there's a couple of tunnels that you go through that are maybe slightly downhill, but otherwise, your leg, if you're already suffering, your leg's going to feel it on this part of the course.
34 seconds now for Linda Willemsen, and that is a big gap already.
It's impressive as well because of how good she looks. She looks so smooth on the bike, such a good poker face. A typical time trial rider that knows how to pace herself, knows how to ride just on the edge of that threshold, just the right amount, and she knows what she's doing here. This could be very dangerous.
It's getting very, very warm out there indeed. Coldish start, and of course, a lot of hard racing to do up the climb.
Yeah, just taking an undervest off here, I think. Probably was maybe a little bit cool at the start this morning in Briançon, but we know climbing a 14-kilometre climb, it's going to get very hot. It was very hot when I was there at the weekend. There were people at the side of the road spraying us with hose pipes, throwing water over us, so she's probably going to, I think, layer off for this.
And this is the rider you were talking about, Cecile Uttrup-Ludwig from Cervelo Bigler. She's wearing the best young riders jersey at the moment. And here's the Bulls train. The Bulls train to the front, chasing down this move from Linda Willemsen. They're obviously starting to worry about it.
Yeah, we've got Nikki Bramir up there as well. So 5 Bulls Diamonds riders in a row. They're working for their team leader, Megan, I would say. She's probably the best known climber they've got in their team. And they're thinking that over 30 seconds, a rider like Linda Willemsen, you don't really want to give her a lot of time to play with. She is too much of an unknown to really risk at this stage.
Linda Willemsen, another of the big mountainous races. She's won the Tour of Ardèche in her career as Marianne Vos towards the back of the main group. A main group that's getting smaller and smaller and smaller with 28 Ks to go. 41 just in front of her. Elena Cecchini, Italian rider who's currently 9th in the world, to another rider to watch in that team. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, another of the big all-rounders in the world of cycling in the last few years. Yeah,
she's been world champion in mountain biking and cyclocross. Incredibly versatile rider, a French rider as well. Would I think for her would love to be able to win. You know, for that team to have a French rider win in a French race would be huge. But yeah, she had not a great time in Rio last summer, and perhaps a little bit of a time to sort of rethink things. New team this year, and always one to watch out for. She's such a good all-rounder, like I say, over different terrains. Never one to discount.
This is full gas racing, and in a beautiful part of the world. Thankfully, the sun's got its hat on. It'd have been very, very murky at the start as we're going through the Gorge de Guil. In through Guillestre just before we started turning up, and another of those great feats of mountain engineering, this road up the Isoire. Different types of rock up the top. It wasn't always easy to construct this. Carnule, I'm told that the rock is, certainly by mountain experts who are much more well learned and read than I am.
This is one of the tunnels I mentioned. So here, this is a bit of a fast section of road. I think there's 2 tunnels for them to go through before it then just starts, well, continues to drag 2 or 3% all the way into that proper climb, Col du Hazard, 14K to go.
Linda Willemsen riding up what Jacques Godet, who directed the Tour de France from 36 to 86, once said was a new version of hell when he found this mountain.
I would agree with him on that from my experience. It was extremely tough.
Well, Linda Willemsen is enjoying her time at the front, I'm sure, before she gets to the climb proper. The 23 kilometres is how they classify it locally. This race, well, it's a hard school, isn't it, the Tour de France? 14 kilometres. An all category climb is the official classification today. But as Joe was saying before, having ridden it herself, having had the own personal testimony of it, it does start at around 23-24 Ks to go, and even here we are climbing, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all strung out here. Slight down section through the couple of tunnels that we've just seen, but then it'll be full starts again all the way through this valley, and there are little kilometre markings saying sort of 2%, 3%. It's that horrible gradient that you can just feel all the time.
Remember, the Tour de France has never finished at the top of the Isoire. La Course is going there first, just a couple of hours earlier. Don't miss it. We're in the Parc Naturel Régional de Queyras, an otherworldly landscape heading up to the Isoire. The climb is starting. Linda Willemsen has 34 seconds on the front for Team Velo Concept Women. The 32-year-old Kiwi star is being chased down bit by bit trains are forming all over the road. We've got Cervelo Bigla on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, the team that's been doing most of the riding, Joe Rauschelschan, has been the very professional, very well put together Bulls Dolmans team.
Yeah, Bulls Dolmans ride professionally very, very well. They've got a very strong team, and it looks like they've got 5 riders working hard for their leader. So it seems like they're not so concerned about packing riders into the top 20 ahead of Saturday. It seems like they want to go for the win today, and now they are realising that Linda could be a serious threat here. Although there is a very long way to go and a lot of climbing to go, Linda's a sort of rider that it's not worth the risk giving her this sort of gap. So you can see they're now working hard on the front. All of them here nicely in a row, tapping out the rhythm, keeping her pegged around that 30-second mark.
Christina Meijerus at the front, just behind her, Chantal Black. She's in the slightly darker blue jersey of the flag of the Netherlands. It's the Luxembourg flag on the body of Christina Meijerus as the national champion. This group's working well. 53 seconds. We've had a little bit of an up and down of the time gap. I'm not sure that it was actually correct when it was being brought down. I think 58 seconds is much more of a reliable gap. There's Marianne Vos just sitting at the back of the peloton still. There's 182 here. Shani Blok-Davidov from Israel, teammate of the rider up in the road, Linda Willemsen, is just calling for a drink. 23.2 kilometers to go, and with a climb like this, I certainly don't think that the usual UCI rules of closing the bar for the last 20 kilometres are going to be enforced here. I think it'll be a very late last orders.
Yes, yeah. It's a long way to go. 23 kilometres, you'd think that would be very short, but like I said, this climb is brutal. The first part of it lures you into a full sense of security, thinking it's not too bad, but the gradient just keeps getting steeper and steeper and steeper, and I think we're going to see fireworks on this climb. Linda has got a good gap here, and it is very dangerous, but it's by no means over. So much could happen on this climb, and it's going to take a lot of mental strength as well as physical strength. It sort of messes with your head, how when the gradients really kick up and you realise quite how far you've got to go and quite how long it's going to take you. Normally in your head you'd see 10k to go and think you're normally there, but 10k up this is going to take a while. So mental as well as physical game in this race.
That was Georgia Williams at the back for Orica Scott. We're seeing how Annemiek van Vleuten and maybe Amanda Spratt can get on for them today. They've kept themselves well hidden, well ready, and perhaps knowing that other teams like Bulls Dolmans have the power on the flat and the false flat, and perhaps they were willing to let them do most of the work and just follow the wheels.
I think a lot of teams will be looking at Bulls Dolmans. They do, on paper, look the strongest. They've been dominant all season. Even without Anna van der Breggen here, everyone knows how strong they are. So I think a lot of teams will look to them to do the work. And they seem ready to take on that challenge. They are very professional. They ride very professionally. And I think they want the win here. They're not willing to sit back and let anybody else take control. They prefer to take control themselves. They know who their best climbers are. They know who's going to be best on these full flat sections, and they're just in control there. No other attacks are going to be allowed to go. Chantal Black on the front there, incredible rider over varying terrains, really, really clever rider, and there they all of them in a lovely line at the front there.
Yeah, 3 riders committed. You talked about Chantal Black there. Nikki Bramio was second wheel. She's been committed to riding here as well. Yep. And Christina Meijerus. The other 3 riders, Dijknen, Guarnier, who we think is the main protected rider, and the other decent glider, Carol Ann Canuel, are all sitting on the wheel behind there in that line, as you said, but they're not riding. It's 3 riders at the front doing turns. 3 against 1 at the minute, essentially. Yes. But the one rider out front is still maintaining 43 seconds.
She is, when that one rider is a former world time trial champion, Commonwealth time trial champion. She's someone to be respected. Like you said, Bulls Dolmans have got Caroline Conal as well, who so they won the team time trial at the Giro d'Italia the week before last, and it was Caroline Conal in the pink jersey. So she, I'd probably say, is perhaps their number 2 rider, maybe alongside Lizzie Dijknen. But the exciting thing is they've got options. So you'd probably put on paper Megan to be their strongest, but like you said, we've got 3 riders here who are sort of sitting back, not doing the work on the flat, probably saving their legs to really do the work on the climb, and when the real fireworks could start.
You do not wear the maglia rosa without being a quality bike rider.
No, exactly.
Just under 22 kilometers to go, and the classified part of the climb is approaching. 42 seconds now on the way up the Izoard. This is La Course by le Tour de France, and it's still an open race. It has been a hugely exciting race. I tell you what, it's been a rapid race. 41.37 kilometers covered in the first hour of racing. As we see Aude Bianic, I think she's still sitting on the back of the group there. 2:06 on the right hand side. Marion Sicot still there for France. And after the first little bits of nervous riding at the foot of the climb, the peloton's strung out, but we've got a fairly decent sized group left. 39 seconds for Linda Willemsen, the Kiwi star, former world time trial champion, at the front of La Course. This is the first of 2 days of action. Second day, a time trial on Saturday. As you see, the French champion Charlotte Bravard in the main peloton. 39 seconds back, that's led by Bulls Dolmans at the front, committing half of their team to try and chasing this down. We think they're running for Megan Guarnier or Caroline Canuel, but don't discount the superstar on your screen. Former world champion, now British champion, Lizzie Deignan. She sits on the wheel of her teammate Christina Meyrus. Also joining the chase now, Cervelo Biglet, the German champion Lisa Klein. So 2 teams riding. Yeah, so Cervelo Biglet, we've already talked about Ashley Moore and Passia as being a favourite for this race. So they're obviously committing some riders to the chase as well. Just looks like just the one rider so far, but they are contributing. We've not seen much of Orica Scott so far. We've talked a lot about Annemiek van Vleuten as potentially being a favourite, but we've not really seen them contributing anything so far. And Linda is just looking so strong, so composed, really nice rhythm, typical time trial rider. She's someone that I was teammates with back on Wiggle Honda in 2014. Really nice girl. Won so many big bike races, and she knows herself. She's very clever. She knows how to peak at the right time. And look how cool she looks here. Brilliant, brilliant poker face. Tapping away, and of course, when you're off the front, you have to give a very good effort. But she's got to be keeping something back for the climb. She has to be keeping a few percent back, surely. She does, because although this is full flat the whole way, when it does kick up and you do see those 9–10% gradients, that really, you know, you don't want tired legs. And it looks like she's riding harder, but I think she knows what she's doing. She knows how long this race is going to be, and it's leaving the peloton thinking, we can't risk this. Well, Bulls Dolmans, having coaxed Cervelo Biglet into riding with them, have now just kept Christina Meyrus in reserve. It's Black, Bramier and the rider from Cervelo Biglet behind, Lisa Klein, the German champion, the 3 riders. Just keeping Linda Willemsen in check. And at the minute, with what's to come, although Linda Willemsen's a superstar, 35 seconds is probably a fairly decent gap to keep in check at the minute. They're doing a good job. They are. They're not letting her get very far away. The peloton was quite strung out. It's a little more bunched up now. But yeah, they know that she's too much of an unknown to really know what to let her do. If they knew she wasn't in good form, they could just let her go. But she's too much of a dangerous rider. She's had too many good results throughout her career to just let her ride away. And the course is unknown, the race is unknown, the style of race is unknown to everybody in cycling. And this isn't just something in women's cycling, this is something that we talked about at the start, a unique event, something different. And again, because nobody quite knows how this is going to be raced today, that's the exciting thing about it at the moment. It is. I mean, we obviously see men's races with mountaintop finishes, but never really just a one-day race like this. And not on such a short course as well. No, exactly. And I think the short course, although there were some grumbles about that and about it's too short and women can ride further, of course women can ride further, of course we're capable of it. I mean, even I was capable of it, and I'm a track rider, and I dragged myself around the full 181 kilometres, but this has meant we've raced full on from the start. There's been attack after attack, and now we've got a very dangerous rider up the road. Very dangerous rider at 37 seconds. I can see her up this long straight road just beyond the Mavic neutral service and the race director's car as well, but you just saw different teams coming to the front. The pace, because they've got her within 40 seconds, isn't quite what it was. 3 or 4 teams across the front of the road. Interesting to see if anybody, maybe one of the smaller teams, is going to try and bridge the gap here, try and get out, just to see if anything changes. If that happens, it'll be chased down, yeah, and then it's going to be hard work for Linda Willemsen. Yeah, I think they're probably happy that she is on her own, but being a time trialist, she probably won't be bothered about that. She'll be quite happy to pace her own effort on her own. But like you say, not race enough this year for everyone to really know her form. So a lot of riders, a lot of teams thinking they're not quite sure what's going to happen. It's a huge climb to be respected, and I think a lot of people are thinking they don't want to go too hard now because they've got a very big challenge coming up. Here she is solo on the Issoire. 18.3 kilometres to go. 4Ks until we get to the classified section, which we will show you without commercial breaks. We're going to take our last break in just a minute's time. And this is a situation in a very reduced peloton. Remember, we started with 21 teams, 119 riders. Riders thinking about moving up one side or the other. The Sunweb train is on the left-hand side. It's still Boels Dolmans leading on the right-hand side. And it's still Chantal Blaak, infatigable so far today. She's been riding since the start. And after a lightning quick start at 41.37 kilometers per hour, what's going to happen? Marianne Vos, the great unknown behind, cycling superstar. Is she going to be involved? Stay with us to find out. We're back in a minute. One of the most historic pieces of road in the history of professional cycling. And we're seeing history being made as La Course by Le Tour de France moves to the Alps. And we're seeing a one-day race ridden at lightning fast pace with one rider off the front. Here's Linda Willemsen, the former world time trial champion, the current Commonwealth time trial champion. Used to compete for Denmark, is now a Kiwi and has 28 seconds on a peloton. Really chasing extremely hard. 2.3 kilometers to go, you can see, until we get to the classified part of the climb. 14 kilometers at 7.3% the Isoire. But that doesn't tell the whole story, does it?
No, so we're already climbing here. This is all gradually uphill. The Isoire average 7%, plenty of kicks up, 9–10%. A short descent around 2k to go. Just about 500 meters long, which does give the legs a little tiny bit of rest, which was a nice respite the other day. But yeah, the gradients, I'd say you spend more time at 9 or 10% than you do at 7%.
Ouch.
Yes, ouch.
Glad we left the bikes at home. Same sort of situation at the front still, and they've got the gap down to 21 seconds now.
Linda will be in her element at this point, just tapping out her own rhythm, but it's, unfortunately for her, it is coming back. Boels Dolmans have got themselves organised. Bit of help from Cervelo Bigla. So the big teams with the two of the biggest favourites look to be contributing to this chase, which they need to do. But Linda has put them under pressure. She's been a big threat because she's such an unknown as well. We know how strong she can be, but she's not raced enough this year to really know her climbing form. But still, she's looking like she's going to enter this climb with over 20-second lead already. Well,
in terms of the rest of her season, it's a great hit out this before the big World Tour events coming up in August, because we've got the Radlund Classic at the end of July following this, but then Vårgårda on the Women's World Tour is one of the biggest events on the calendar. We've got the Ladies Tour in Norway after that, one of the most important events in terms of media coverage in women's cycling as well. Then Plouay in Brittany, then the Ladies Tour in the Netherlands, and the Madrid Challenge by La Vuelta, which is the other ASO organised event on the Women's World Tour. Willemsen could feature heavily over the next month if she's riding herself into form here. Yeah, well, if she's looking towards the World Championships this year in September, she'll be looking to perhaps have a later start to her season. A lot of riders race early season and then take a mid-break around this sort of point of the season, which is why some of the other bigger names like Anna van der Breggen aren't here. Whereas she started her season late, she'll know how to peak for what she wants to peak for. So if the Worlds are her target, she'll have carefully planned that out, and she'll know exactly what she's doing for that. Worlds this year in Norway. Very, very difficult course, as we've got BTC City Ljubljana's Eugenia Bujak just distance off the back of the peloton. As the road starts to rise and continue to get harder, we'll see more and more of that 82 just in front of her. Was Alison Jackson for Beeping Korjas, Canadian rider. Oh, and only 16 seconds now for Linda Willemsen. Out of the saddle, you can tell the gradients are getting harder. Yeah, they've got her in their sight now, but she's just climbing at her own pace now. She can start this climb. As you can see, we are already climbing, even though we're not at the official start of the climb. There's riders at the back here that will be suffering, that have had to go with the pace of Boels Dolmans, but Linda's been riding at her own pace. We've seen Marianne Vos a couple of times at the back. Perhaps this isn't her day today. We've seen very little of Orica Scott and Annemiek van Vleuten. We spoke a lot about Boels Dolmans, so they're obviously making a statement that they want to go for the win today. Well, we saw big turns from Lisa Klein just on the right-hand side of your screen before the German champion. That's taken its toll. Her day is done. Job is done for the day. Problems too a little further back for another couple of riders we saw. We saw the French champion Charlotte Bravard, who was very active at the start of the race, trying to get in early breakaways. She's done for the day as well. Linda Willemsen just has 11 seconds now as the selection starts to take its toll. Oh, and that's big news. That is huge news. Marianne Vos distanced. She's facing a bit of a fight just to stay on the wheel, but I wonder whether she was hanging around there and just staying out of sight, out of mind. But if she's losing wheels, she can't be feeling great.
She's not in her element here at all, is she? Sometimes she just have a bad day, but I think in general she's not known for being one of the best in the world at these long climbs. But equally, she could be thinking, I'm going to take this at my own pace. There might be fireworks early on. She might continue at her own pace and then overtake people. But yeah, so far, not looking good. Not looking good for her teammate Kasia, who is one of the favourites as well.
Yeah, Kasia Niewiadoma's been, well, we saw with a mechanical problem earlier on. She's been back in the peloton, hiding away at the moment. But Marianne Vos, again, just one of those unknowns. Not particularly a favourite today, but we didn't know quite what to expect from her. On to the classified climb, on to the Izoire. 14 kilometres to the top. 7.6% the average gradient. The first half is the easiest half. And the second bit, we get to kilometre 8. We've got an average gradient, yes, average, of 10% just over that kilometre. And we've got maximum gradients up and above 14%, I think, on this climb.
Yeah, so the first part wasn't too bad. First part, some nice lower gradients, lovely smooth tarmac. Lures you into a full sense of security, you sort of feel okay. But yeah, as you get higher up, when the legs are hurting anyway, that's when it really stings, and that's when it really gives you a kick. It really says, nope, we're going to get even steeper here. So a climb, a really tough climb, but I think one the climbers of the peloton will be relishing. That have spent the whole season racing up shorter climbs, and they'll be relishing the opportunity to really show what they can do on this sort of climb.
Marion Sicot, the latest rider to be joining Marianne Vos. There's Chantal Black at the back now, having done her job for Bulls Dolmans. She's alongside Rachel Neylan on the left-hand side, who was in a very early incarnation of a breakaway that never really lasted for more than 2 or 3 kilometres. This is the only serious break we've had all day long. And that is testament to some extremely aggressive racing. Linda Willemsen at the front. First bits of those messages on the road that we're starting to see. This is the vital statistic of the climb, 14.1 kilometres, 7.3% from this section. 17 seconds from Linda Willemsen, and they're still tapping out that rhythm at the front, but they're just letting her hang out there, Joe.
They are. It's a bit far now for the climbers to really launch any big attacks right now, and I think we'll probably see the real fireworks right towards the end. It is a long way. In terms of time, they'll be climbing a long time. Hard for me to judge exactly how long it will take them, because these are the best in the world at this sort of thing. But they'll all be respecting the climb. They'll all be thinking this is going to be sort of a race of attrition. It's going to be people coming out the back to begin with before we really see all the fireworks later on.
Alexis Ryan there wearing that brand new jersey for Canyon SRAM. Raced only today and on Saturday, that jersey. Rafa with the special edition. Of course, as we've seen many special edition jerseys at the Tour de France. Another sign telling you the hell that is along the road for the next kilometre.
Yes, they've got those every kilometre giving you the average gradient for that coming kilometre. And the horrible thing is further up the tight climb where you keep seeing 9% after 9% after 9%, and you think, come on, give me some rest here. But early on, it's not so bad. Looks like we've got Lizzie Deignan on the front here.
A change of things on the front then. We saw Chantal Black dropping off. Deignan, it seems, setting the pace. So I think it is pretty clear who they're riding for now if Deignan is being used this early on.
Yeah, this is quite early on the climb for her to be used. So it looks like they were using Chantal Black, Nikki Bramier on the flatter sections in the valley, the lower gradients. But it looks like Lizzie's doing her turn now. And it is looking like it's probably going to be Megan or Caroline Cunal as the leaders for today.
Mexican champion Indrig Drexel is from there for Team Tibco Silicon Valley. She has the national colours on. Quite a few national champions up here in this group, actually. Former national champion is Anouska Costa, the former Dutch champion, racing for WM3 Pro Cycling. Kasia Niewiadoma still in this group. Camilla Pedersen, the Danish champion, in there for Velo Concept Women with the national flag on her back. And we're down to no more than, what, 30, 35 riders maybe? 40 at a push.
We've not seen much of Alyssa Longa Borghini so far. We've seen some of her teammates up the front for Wiggle High Five, but it looks like she's hiding herself well in the peloton. She's another rider that early on I said she could be a good contender in this race. Bronze in the Olympic road race last summer. Very good climber, world-class rider. But yeah, she's been hiding herself well. We've not seen her at the back or at the front, so nicely resting in the peloton.
Georgia Williams just still hanging on at the back there alongside Shani Bloch-Davidov, who we saw having a mechanical problem earlier on today. And Linda Willemsen's gap has grown to 20 seconds again.
This is the worrying thing, was no one really knows her climbing ability at the moment. No one's probably really quite sure, and she is gradually taking it out. So along the flat, Boels Dahlmans were chasing, but now she's tapping at her own rhythm and increasing her lead.
Sheila Gutierrez, the Spanish champion for Cyclans Pro Cycling, just moving up on the far side now. And it's interesting, as Black comes to do another term at the front, I wonder if Boels Dahlmans are just panicking a little. Because once this peloton continues to be shed down, there's less numbers from teams. Remember, we only started with maximum 6 women teams.
Yeah.
6 riders per team. And if you're chasing down somebody in the mountain, you want numbers. You want to use up your riders, use the train, like we see in the Tour de France with Team Sky, for example, when they control the race, and one by one they peel off.
Yeah.
Here, well, Boels Dahlmans, if Black's gone, have only got 5 riders left.
Yes, so you've just seen Black just come back up to the front. I have seen Christine Majura still in the peloton. They still look in control of things. It's hard to know how hard they're riding. They know it's a long way to go. And she's still within 30 seconds, so she's not got a huge gap, but it is going out. And I think this is the thing with Linda. We know how good a time trialer she is. We know on the flatter section she will be strong. Boels Dahlmans were right up the front there, controlling that gap, bringing her back. But now we've hit the climb, and she's increasing her lead, so it's dangerous, but it's an exciting tactic because no one's quite sure of her ability.
I think they're still holding things back behind. It's still quite a big group, and as you saw, if Black has come back to the front, it means that she wasn't strong enough. And if somebody could attack out the bunch, the pace can't be too ridiculous at the minute.
No, Boels Dahlmans look to be running within themselves for now. Now is this rider going to jump across to Linda and try and join her, or there's someone else as well?
And this is where it gets dangerous for Boels Dahlmans, because I think those attacks being covered by Black on the left-hand side at the moment, as she tried to just keep the pace up, that's probably done for her day. I think she's starting to slip again at the minute. Lenswold quarter it is on the counter-attack. And if 2, 3, 4 riders can start the bunch, and we get a group of 4 or 5 riders working with Linda Willemsen in a group at the front, then it becomes dangerous for the big teams who may have missed that move.
Yeah, Lizzie Deigler still on the front though, still looking cool as a cucumber really. She doesn't look too concerned about these attacks for now, but I think with the climb of this length, you know that if you go into the red too early on, you will pay for it. Also with the altitude as well, you can't really produce the same sort of power outputs at that sort of altitude as you can at sea level, so everyone will know roughly sort of what they're capable of. This is the time to sort of save yourself a little bit.
Yep, the altitude 2,360 meters, as you see Christina Majura's done, cooked, finished, off the back. A lot of work she's done today. Now, all of those little attacks have pulled on the peloton, and it's brought the gap down to 16 seconds.
It has, so yeah, Linda seems to be riding at her own pace, but the peloton are up and down, yo-yoing a little bit. But Boels Dahlmans seem to be controlling their pace, riding at what they think suitable. A lot of riders taking their chance now. These are the climbers that think, now I need to start riding.
It's Tatiana Ryabchenko at the front in the blue jersey, riding for Lenswold Quartat, Ukrainian rider. Again, tapping up big gear there, grinding away rather than spinning. Big move on this gradient just to try and get out. Of course, with 11 kilometers to go, we're on this particular kilometer has an average gradient of 4%. Just kicked off from the 7.5% section. Here's Willemsen. 13 seconds.
And she's still looking composed, still riding her own pace, tapping at her own rhythm, riding her own race so far.
Spinning away very, very well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what gearing people have got for this race. So I rode with 39.28 on my bike, which didn't really feel quite enough.
No wonder you were struggling.
I could have done with a bit easier gears than that. So it'd be interesting what mechanics have put on their bike for this race, how much research they've done, how prepared they've come into this, and also different riders prefer different sort of setups as well.
Spanish champion Sheila Gutierrez on the right-hand side being dropped. Think back to the Mont du Chat stage of the Tour de France the other week. There were some riders riding 34-30. How things have changed.
Oh, I could have done with that, yeah. So I think spinning is so much more efficient. And although this is really a one-day race, it's not so important.
Upping at the pace in the chase in the peloton is done for the Danish champion. Camilla Pedersen just behind, wearing 184 there for Team Valo Concept. But it's compatriot by birth, now Kiwi Linda Willemsen, who's still at the front of the race. She's dragging them out. Also dropped there 33 Séverine Ernaud for Française des Jeux. Chasing group behind Linda Willemsen, can see them. The peloton in the meantime still led by the British champion Lizzie Deignan for Bulls Dolmans, who we think today should probably be riding for Megan Guarnier, winner of the World Tour last year.
Yeah, and the peloton's thinning out a lot now. There's a lot of riders going out the back. A lot of riders will just be trying to stay in there. So now they've seen an Orica Scott rider there getting dropped. We've not seen much of Annemiek van Vleuten, so we've not seen Orica Scott really sort of play their cards yet.
That's Janelle Crooks who's being dropped. Janelle Crooks of Australia. A couple of riders from Astana going out the back as well. Sofia Beggin of Italy, one of them. I think the other was Lara Vicelli. Séverine Ernaud. 145 there is Carly Taylor of Australia, riding for Ale Cipollini. She's in the yellow jersey. 112.
These riders have gone quite early on in this climb, and you can see the peloton are now quite a long way ahead of them, so I think it could be race over for these guys.
There's Black after doing the most work of anybody up there in the 119 rider peloton today.
Yeah, she's done her work, she's done her job, she's pegged the gap on the flatter sections where she was supposed to, and now it's down to the other climbers of the team to set up their leader for the finish.
The only Cypriot rider in the race we've just passed, riding for Serveto Justa, she's the national champion, Antri Christoforou. Look at the gaps all the way up to the peloton now as we come onto an ever so slightly easier section before it kicks up again in about a kilometre's time.
I think Linda will still be happy at this stage. She's still on her own, she's still tapping at her own rhythm, and being a time trial rider, she knows how to do that. She knows how to pace herself. And you've got this group of three that are forming, but the peloton's still led by Lizzie Deignan, still looking like Bulls Dolmans are in control. No one else really launching any other attacks for the moment, but still over 10 kilometres to go to the top.
10 kilometres to go. 7-1 on your screen there on the right hand side is Amélie Riva running for Laris. Laris Wild Deals. 113 in front of her. Alexandra Manley, one of the Orica Scott riders that Joe was talking about. I haven't seen too many riders from Orica Scott up the front. Maybe just biding their time. Spratt and Van Vleuten, we expect them to see them at one point. In fact, one of them just moving up on the right-hand side, we can see with the yellow helmets on.
Yes, we can see them coming now. So they've let Bulls Dolmans do the work up till now. They let them be the riders in charge, but now they're going to start showing their hand, perhaps.
Just sitting in the wheels. Sitting in the wheels, right on the wheel of Megan Guarnier, who are Bulls Dolmans, pardon me, are riding for the team from the Netherlands. And this is what's left of the peloton. Tatiana Guderzo is there, former world champion.
We've still got the best young rider in the Women's World Tour there, Cecile Ludwig, for Cervelo Bigler, still in that group, still riding that best young riders jersey, so she's doing very well to still be in this group of climbers now.
Serveto Justa rider on the attack, just at the front. One by one they get dropped. Costa now is the latest to be struggling at the back. Just in front of her is Claudia Lichtenberg, and Lichtenberg, the former German champion, we wondered if she'd be one of the outsiders for today. At the moment, unless she's bluffing, she's not on a great day. 93 there is Juliette Labou, the rider I was talking about earlier on, who won the Queen stage last week of the Tour du Féminin. Sabrina Stultins is still in the group.
Bulls Dolmans still looking extremely confident, still on the front there, still tapping at their own pace. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot also in the bunch there, and we're seeing Orica Scott moving up on the outside as well.
Three riders for Bulls Dolmans. British champion, former world champion is still there. Deignan it is, just tapping out that rhythm. They have the front of the race where they want them at the moment. Long, long way to go yet, and some pretty severe gradients. Japanese champion Eri Yamina is there as well in the red jersey for Française des Jeux.
Well, they've got Linda in their sight and they're reeling her in gradually, but they're not in any rush to get her. They're just keeping at their own pace, almost running similar to how we see Team Sky ride. So keeping to their own tactics, not getting too excited too early on, reeling her in gradually down to 12 seconds now, the gap.
And this is interesting. It's brought the first attack back. That was Tatiana Ryabchenko's attack. Still one rider hanging about, the rider from Servetto, who's almost bridged up to Linda Willumsen, but the break has almost been brought back. Just less than 10 kilometers to go. Linda Willumsen has been in a break for the last 15 kilometers or so. It looks, though, Joanna Rousel-Shan, that she's about to be brought back.
Yeah, she's looking over her shoulder now, which is normally a telltale sign of they're coming up fast behind me and my day out is probably done. It still put a lot of teams under pressure, that attack. That was a dangerous rider because she was that big unknown and because we know how strong she is at time trialling. But yeah, it looks like she's looking over her shoulder, but the other rider has come past her and is carrying on.
Well, this is an effort from the rider from Servetto, Giusto. Team based in Italy. A couple of Colombian riders with them. We saw Laura Lozano in trouble early on. They've got Ana Sanabria as well. We saw the Brazilian champion from that team being dropped, Silvia Fernandez.
And Lizzie Dignan's still on the front, still controlling things. Riders still gradually coming out the back in ones and twos, but it shows the confidence of Boels Dolmans to just keep tapping out that rhythm.
Well, Lichtenberg still struggling here. That's a big loss for Wiggle High 5. We talked about Juliette Labou as well for Team Sunweb. Stultines remains there, however. Remember, they lost Molly Weaver to a crash early on. So the break goes in terms of Willumsen being caught. But there's still one rider up the road.
That was incredible work by Lizzie, pretty much on her own there for Boels Dolmans on the front of the first few kilometres of this climb, bringing her back on her own. And Linda is a rider to be respected, but Lizzie is obviously in brilliant form. Just keep tapping out that rhythm, not get carried away by other people's attacks, and gradually bring that back.
154 there going out the back is Rossella Ratto of Italy. And this is an interesting one to watch. Leah Kirkman still up there. Wow, what a performance this is from the sprinter. Second in the first ever La Course. She has a team leader, Sabrina Stultines, here. But Leah Kirkman is only just getting back to racing on European roads.
Yeah, she isn't a rider I'd highlighted this morning as being up here. So very, very impressive by the Canadian rider there. Hopefully she can support her teammate. And like we said before, because this is new, because we've not seen much of this sort of racing before, we're not quite sure who's going to perform to the best today. So it's exciting.
Pauline Ferron-Prévaudes, Kasia Niewiadoma, kept herself very, very well hidden so far. We're back at the head of the race in the meantime. 8.6 kilometers still to go. A little bit of a movement behind, but in the last 2 or 3 minutes or so, in the last kilometre, we've probably seen the peloton almost half.
Yes, we have, and I think we can see Ashley Moolman-Passio for Cervelo bigger up at the front now as well. She was one of the early favourites for the race, so she's just getting herself in a nice position. Could she be preparing herself for an attack, or is she going to sit on the Boels Dolmans train as they gradually just get rid of a lot of the peloton?
And you wonder how Orica Scott are going to play those two cards as well, of Amanda Spratt and Annemiek van Vleuten. They're both up towards the group, sitting there waiting. Look out for their yellow helmets as you see trouble on the left-hand side for the best young rider in the World Tour at the minute. That's Cecile Uttrup Ludwig, blue jersey, open and clearly suffering a little. Yeah, she's
the best young rider in the Women's World Tour, done incredibly well to last this far in now a very, very, we can't really call it a peloton anymore, very reduced group. These are the best climbers in the world. There's riders biding their time. We can see Alyssa Longo-Borghini, we can see Ashley Moolman-Passio. All the favourites are now up there, and Lizzie Dignan's still tapping out that rhythm, still looking like she's in incredible form. She wouldn't even class herself as a climber, but look, she's taken that whole peloton down to this very small group of riders now.
Well, the gradients are about to ramp up and continue to ramp up, and we've got no more than about 18 riders in this group, 20 max.
This is an incredible ride by Lizzie. This to put her in the top 18 climbers in the world. I probably admit I probably wouldn't have done that myself. I feel bad saying that because she's one of my friends, but she looks like she's in great form here. And like I say, Boels have been dominant all day, and she's just tapping out that rhythm still with an amazing poker face. Doesn't really look under any pressure at this point either.
Well, for those of you maybe watching for the first time the cycling, Lizzie Deignan is someone who prefers the short, sharp, steep climbs. Those that select the riders and maybe bring the second tier of sprinters into things. She's very much in the mode of Peter Sagan, you see, in the men's game. And yeah, she wins classics for fun. She eats them up. Here in the big mountains, this is a wonderful performance.
It is really, you know, she's one that races like Tour of Flanders. I'd call her an all-rounder. She can sprint, she can climb, she can descend, she can corner. She's really good in a bunch. But to see her performing this well on this length climb shows how good form she is in. And as we build towards the World Championships in September, she's got her eye getting that rainbow jersey back again, I think.
And it's a course that will probably suit her. Now then, what are we looking like? A lot of work being done here. Do you have the legs to cope with the responsibility? That is the question. That's Caroline Canuel, probably the second card that Bulls were hoping to play. Suffering a little. .104 just behind her is Ursa Pintar, the Slovenian rider from B-Pink City, Ljubljana. Little ring, bigger sprocket almost. It's hard work.
Well, it looks like just Megan Garnier still in that group for Boels Diamonds. Lizzie still on the front, still tapping out that rhythm, which is incredible. But yeah, she's still got her teammate left in there. 7.7 kilometres to go. Not quite halfway, unfortunately, for them on this climb, and it's only going to get tougher from now.
Well, Caroline Buñuel dropped by her own teammate.
Ruthless, but if they're working for Megan, then that's the plan, and she seems to be climbing the best. And that's the thing in bike racing, you can go in with a plan of a leader, but until you actually get racing, you don't really know who's got the best legs on the day.
Pauline Ferrand-Prévot and Sabrina Stultins. Let's get a look at exactly where this is in the group at the moment. There is Sabrina Stultins, the rider that Team Sunweb were hoping to put in the top 10 today. So look up the road. Oh dear. Well, 7.4 kilometres to go. We're going to have a lot of changes. We're going to have some riders feeling better as they go on and get into the climb. But if you're suffering before we get to the big gradients, it's not usually the best sign.
This blistering pace by Lizzie just shelling people out the back. I mean, Pauline is a world-class rider, and she was an outside hope for this as well. Being French as well, it would have been a big target. But still, Boels Diamonds still tapping out that rhythm and shelling everybody out the back.
And there's a split in the front group there. There was a split in the front group that the rider from Orica Scott was struggling to close. And with 7.3 kilometres still to go, there are going to be riders left and right absolutely swinging, and Ashley Moolman-Pasio, one of the big favourites for the race, struggling. Left-hand side, wearing number 11 and the white jersey. Yeah,
we didn't expect that. She was a rider we thought could be up there. We saw Sevilla Bigler doing some work earlier on today, so she at that point she probably was feeling good. But this climb is brutal, and these gradients in the middle, this is where it's really kicking up now. We've had the lower gradients at the bottom. We've had the 3, 4, 5%, but now we're going to hit the sort of 6, 7, 8, 9% gradients, which really leave no room to hide at all.
Yeah, the next kilometre is average 10% now. Interesting to see. Here's Kasia Niewiadoma, third wheel on the right. We've got Orica Scott riders front and back in the group. Spratt's there. Van Vleuten is closing the gap. Seven kilometres to go. It's absolutely crazy. It's been a fast race so far. We're in the town of Brunissart. We're heading up to the Izoire for the first ever finish of a big race hosted by the Tour de France up here. The Tour de France has been over the Izoire time and time again in the race. La Course by the Tour de France is up there, and Orica Scott looked the strongest team here.
I think we saw Megan Garnier struggling a little bit, so her own teammate on the front, and I think she may even be the wrong side of this split here in this group. Here she is there.
Megan Guarnier then, and surely on the radio there's got to be a message here to Lizzie Deignan to stop the pace, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Please slow it down a little.
Yeah, she's been tapping out an incredible rhythm, which I don't think anybody really expected from her to be performing this well on this sort of mountain stage. And yeah, her own teammate is in trouble here now, so what do? Do they switch their allegiance? Do they switch their team leader? But Lizzie's already done a lot of work here.
Beefy to corner as always, and the Tour de France, hello to them. Japanese champion being dropped as well now, Eddie Yamamina for Française des Jeux. There she is in the red shorts on the left-hand side, alongside the World Tour winner last year, Megan Guarnier. And after all of this work, Boels Diamonds might be about to see themselves struggle.
Yeah, they've got just 2 riders left in the back. So Lizzie on the front, still tapping out that rhythm, still with that completely cool face. Look at her looking around. Where is she? Where's Megan? She's realising now that perhaps this isn't the way forward. There's still Cassie up there. There's the Alyssa Longo-Borghini. There's Annemiek van Vleuten. They're all looking very good and very dangerous. We see Lizzie dropping back.
Longo-Borghini, pardon me, in the black jersey with the Italian flag on the back for Wiggle Honda. She's 4th wheel as we look at it now. And for the first time, we're seeing a bit of a change in how things work. Better for Guarnier, who's made her way back on. 51 still there's Lauren Stevens from the United States, riding for Team Tibco Silicon Valley. British champion in there as well. 34 for Française des Jeux, Charles Aguillo. Wow. Seems to have been around forever, Charles Aguillo. And she's riding for Française des Jeux now, and at the front on a mountain stage on La Course.
This is big for a French team. They'll be wanting a result here today, so for her to be in that group is incredible. We've seen the pace ease off. Now Lizzie stopped riding that blistering pace she was setting. She's gone back to look for her teammate, so she's realised that her teammate was struggling and she's dropped back, and now she's looking to look after Megan, looking over her shoulder there.
The problem for Bulls here as well is that Dijknen's had a face in the wind for a long time on this climb. She can't be expected to go off herself now. She takes it up. This is interesting.
She's obviously feeling good. That was a little acceleration whilst looking over. That wasn't her going full gas. That was perhaps her testing the water a little bit, seeing what everyone else is going to do. She's obviously in incredible form. She doesn't look like she's putting any effort in at all here.
Well, her teammate must be feeling a little better as well. She's back on the group. Otherwise, you would think, well, why would she ride at the front of this group and do all the work? If she was thinking of herself, after the turn she's done, she'd certainly be sitting in the group and making someone else ride.
Perhaps they've had a small chat and they've talked about things. The gradients do vary on this climb. You can easily go through bad patches and good patches. So if they've had a little communication, they'll have decided what they want to do, and they'll have the radio as well from the team car. So they'll be getting plenty of information from the DS as well, Danny Stamm.
Well, that little first let up by Dijknen allowed a couple of riders to get back on, including a teammate. 2 riders still there for Orica Scott. Longo-Borghini sits 2nd wheel, the Italian champion. 6.4 kilometres to go, and the gradient really does ramp up here on the Izoire.
Now, who's going to be the first to attack now? Alyssa Longo-Borghini sat in 2nd wheel. A couple of riders with teammates there. Is someone going to make a move, or they're going to just keep letting Lizzie do this blistering pace, which they're just about hanging on to? But a couple of riders at the back perhaps beginning to struggle now.
Including her own teammate again, who's continuing to slip. Just look at the rider in the orange, left-hand side of the shot. She's just out of shot as we look at it head-on now. But the orange helmet bobbing up and down at the back. Dijknen can't put her own teammate out of the game again, surely.
This is incredible by Dijknen. She had a relatively slow start to the season, some problems with illness, wasn't feeling so good. She had the incredible win at Tour de Yorkshire, but then at Giro Rosa she was working for her teammate Anna van der Breggen. She was a domestique there, but that must have done her good. That stage was in her legs, and now she needs to be in incredible form here.
29 professional victories in her career.
That's all right, that's pretty good.
Not bad effort, is it? It's about 28 victories more than I'll ever have in professional cycling. No, it is a wonderful palmarès. She's one of the top riders in the world. But look at the back of the group again, and Megan Guarnier is being put off the back. Once more, she just eases up a little.
She's just looking around, seeing what everyone's doing. No one else is quite ready to take on the race. It is a long climb, although we've got just 6K to go. That's a long, hard 6 kilometres.
Japanese champion again towards the back. The Colombian rider Ana Sanabria Sanchez is there as well. She's wearing the white helmet, white jersey for Servetto Giusta. Let's look around. The riders aren't exactly getting back in here as we're around another hairpin.
Yeah, Megan just went up the inside there in that hairpin. Seems to have gained a couple of places in that group, but still towards the back of that group. Not looking especially good, but that could be. This could be her way of riding. We've not seen enough of this before.
We've seen a lot of that from the Yates brothers in the Tour de France. Just sitting on the back of the group. Adam Yates last year rode with a white jersey like that, but we just saw Megan Guarnier on the radio. Now Lizzie Dijknen's doing the same.
Yeah, what are they saying? What are their tactics here? I think everyone's, like I said before, not quite sure how this climb's going to pay out. Still just under 6 kilometres to go. That's a long way, and it's a relentless gradient now. 9%, 9%, 9%, kilometre after kilometre. And she's still tapping out that rhythm. And no one can do anything about it. They're all just trying to hang on to her.
View down from the Izoire. 5.8 kilometres to go, and we're getting into hellish gradient territory now. Look at this. Oh. When you see the caravans and the people and the bikes standing on the side of the road, you get a real appreciation of how steep this road is. You're not just looking at it from the helicopter.
Yeah, it is. The gradient is tough here, and there's not much shade as well from the trees. There are a few trees, but when it's hot, I don't know quite how hot it is today, but there's not much shelter. So it is very, very tough here, but she's still tapping out that rhythm.
There's Longo Borghini wearing #1 through the centre. Won the Route de France general classification in 2015. 13 victories in her career, second at the Giro. Didn't manage to take a stage win, but she was constantly in the top 10. Quite a few podiums as well. Third in Monterriere Valcellina, third in the time trial as well. Second, as we said, in the GC. And up there in the King of the Mountains classification.
Yeah, she looks like she's biding her time. She could be preparing herself for an attack, or she could be just hanging on to that pace, but we're not quite sure. But I reckon Lizzie would have been on the radio asking Megan how she's feeling, asking what condition she's in. And perhaps Megan was saying, keep going. Perhaps she was saying, you know, keep going with this pace. People are suffering.
She might be bluffing. We don't know yet. There is Annemiek van Vleuten, who's gone for skin suit today. Same with Longo Borghini. We've seen a couple of riders fiddling with jerseys, and because it was quite cool this morning at the start and the sign-on, not wondering really how to dress for the day and what type of clothing. It's baking hot now on the mountain, and a couple of skin suits on show as well. So different ways to approach it today. Now this is the group. Van Vleuten with Spratt. We saw Sanabria as well. It's still Lizzie Deignan, who's just peeled off a little at the minute. Megan Guarnier in the orange, her teammate towards the back, as Deignan on the left-hand side, as we look at it, takes it up. 5.5 kilometres to go.
She's doing an incredible job. She's been riding this climb from the very bottom, and that group behind us just thins out again and again and again. One rider at a time has been spat out the back. I'm waiting to see what Orica Scott will do, still with 2 riders there. But Lizzie will be on the radio to Megan, and she'll be getting instructions of what to do. And so far, it's keep going by the looks of things.
Chara Guillot up there for Française des Jeux. She's raced a lot this year, 36 race days, almost 4,000 kilometres in competition. She hasn't had a win yet, though. She's had plenty of second places, a couple of good GC results as well. She was just outside the top 10 in the Tour of the Basque Country. That's the Bira, the women's race.
Running for a French team as well, this will be a big target for them, so she'll be really happy to be in that group. And we see a few little gaps opening up now in the wheels, just slightly there. Is Megan struggling, or is she coming back?
Looks to be closing the wheel there to Van Vleuten. Pardon me, that's Spratt. Van Vleuten is in third wheel at the moment. So Longo Borghini, Niewiadoma, Guillot, Stevens and Van Vleuten, joined by Spratt, Deignan, who's at the front, her teammate Guarnier at the back, and Ana Cristina Sanabria right at the back. Just holding on at the minute in the white jersey. Still, it's Deignan, as it has been for the entire part of the classified part of this Izoire.
And she still looks within herself. She still looks completely in control. It's fantastic work by her.
The Sanabria just being dropped off the back. Niewiadoma is the latest to show a little sign of weakness. She's holding the wheel of Guarnier, the rider in the black jersey with WM3 on the back. Former Polish champion, former European champion, still only 22 years of age. We're into the final 5 kilometres of La Course by the Tour de France. This has been non-stop action since the start today. The first hour ridden at 41.37. No break was really allowed to get away until we were away on the climb. Then it was Linda Willemsen for a good 20 minutes, half an hour or so. And now we're down to the best climbers in the world. Amazingly, Lizzie Deignan is still with them and pacing this group of favourites up. First little fracture at the back of the group for Kasia Niewiadoma, one of the pre-race favourites, as it's Longo Borghini. Oh, we've got an attack. Orica Scott, the team with 2 riders to play it on. Annemiek van Vleuten off the front, and the Australian team are seeing it chased down by Lizzie Deignan.
She is straight onto that wheel. Lizzie's acceleration is incredible, and she was ready for that. As soon as Annemiek went, she was straight onto that wheel, and she's getting nowhere. But there are riders at the back that are now struggling. We see her own teammate, Amanda Spratt, looks like she's struggling at the back there.
5 times a stage winner at the Giro d'Italia, Annemiek van Vleuten up there. Remember, she was off on her way to winning the Olympic gold medal until that horror crash in Rio de Janeiro. It was her compatriot who took it. It's one of her big competitors who's struggling here. That's bad news for Niewiadoma. Looks as though she's being dropped, and that attack did for her. It also did for Megan Guarnier. So Deignan had no chance but to follow.
And Diamond was straight on that. She looked across, saw her go, and she got out of the saddle and she was straight onto that wheel. Her acceleration at that point was incredible. We're reaching high altitudes now. The legs will be burning. The breathing is so much harder, but here we go again.
Well, Lizzie Deignan has no shortage of mountains to train on where she lives down in Monaco. Often out in the hills just above there and the Alps. But she is not the sort of rider who we expected to be challenging quite seriously the likes of Van Vleuten, the likes of her own teammate Guarnier up there. At the minute, it is Van Vleuten being followed by Deignan and Shara Gillow, who's third wheel there just for Française des Jeux. Some of the biggest names in the sport have been dropped.
It looks like Van Vleuten's broken the elastic now. She was one of the pre-race favourites. She was climbing so well in Rio, so well at the Giro d'Italia, winning the time trial there with a huge climb in it. And it looks like she might have broken the elastic now, and the gap seems to be growing rapidly here.
Well, she bossed the mountains classification at the Giro d'Italia as well, winning it by 8 points from Elisa Longo-Borghini. Van der Breggen third in that classification. She was the overall winner. And talking of Longo-Borghini, not riding a bad race, not panicking, and maybe like we see often with riders like Chris Froome, just riding the power, staying within herself and coming back as she knows she can without going into the red.
She is. She's tapping out a nice rhythm, coming up back to the Lizzie group now. Seems to be riding well here, riding at her own pace, riding her own race, which is, I think, what you need to do on a climb like this, because it is so tough, because the altitude is so high. You know what you're capable of, and you know that if you go into the red this soon, it can all unravel in just a couple of kilometres time.
4 kilometres to go. Percentage on this particular kilometre, 9. It's a hellish climb, and it continues. There's still a long way to go. 13, 14 seconds. Looks as though the gap's still growing out to this 3-rider group of Longo-Borghini, Gillow and Deignan, although Longo-Borghini looks like she's struggling just to hold the wheel.
This is fascinating because Cassia Nuodoma's gone, Ashley Moorman-Passio's gone, Alessa Longo-Borghini is struggling. Those are 3 riders that we thought from the start would be the real big winners here. Perhaps Megan Guarnier's gone. Lizzie is riding incredibly well, so it's all changed from what we had this morning down on highlighting our sheets.
Riding so well. Of course, in second position, she's not closing the gap at the minute. Van Vleuten is killing it at the front. 20 seconds.
Wow. And
riding for her life here.
This is an incredible ride here. She was the pre-race favourite. She's the one that a lot of people named. After that ride in Rio and the heartbreak of that crash, we know how good a climber she is. She's been having a fantastic season at the Giro. Really, really riding well as well. A lot of people named her early on as the favourite here, but we'd seen very little of her team early on, and the confidence seemed to come from Boels Dolmans. But she's waited, she did an attack, it got chased down, and she went again, and that's it. 23 seconds now. That's an incredible gap in such a short space of time.
Well, 30 wins in the career of 34-year-old Annemiek van Vleuten. 4 of them have come this year. She won very early on the Cadel Evans Ocean Race, also won the Emakumeen Bira, stage 4. That was, of course, the Tour of the Basque Country that we were talking about. National champion in the time trial. And, of course, remember the victories in the Giro d'Italia. So my maths wasn't so good there. It's 5 victories.
Yeah, incredible season. And she is something a lot of people named. And because we didn't see her team up the start early on, I think we saw the confidence from Boels Dolmans, but perhaps Orica were just biding their time, and she'd done a really good job of hiding in the peloton, saving her energy, and now going big in these last few kilometres.
Well, this is the World Tour event of the 2-day event at La Course this year. Remember, the chase will be on in Marseille on Saturday in front of 67,000 fans inside the Stade Vélodrome down in the south of France. Remember, it is probably the first 20 riders who will take part in that. This, though, is the big challenge. This is the one I think they'll all come to win. This is the World Tour race today. And, of course, they're conquering a mighty mountain.
They are. This is the one that's been talked about for so long. It's such an iconic climb. The men are about to race up it. Everyone wants to be the first winner on this climb. Every team wants the bragging rights about this. And so far, Orica Scott are getting it right. Lizzie Deignan still setting a good pace, still seeing other riders struggling, still in second place so far. But Annemiek van Vleuten on an incredible ride here.
Oriel Scott up there in the Women's World Tour in 4th position at the minute in terms of the teams. Annemiek van Vleuten herself riding so well, 3rd place in the World Tour too. So she's got a jersey to fight for over the next month or so. And a win here would take her a lot closer to her compatriot Van der Breggen.
It could, and we're approaching 3 kilometres to go. Between 3 and 2k to go, there is a short descent. That will give her a little bit of rest of the legs, and give her a nice little kick up into the final 2 kilometres of this climb.
Annemiek van Vleuten with 41 seconds now. And the problem here for Boels Dolmans, even though there's 2 riders here, Shara Giller hasn't come through and taken a turn yet. So you imagine that she's on the limit with Lizzie Deignan, because it's in both their interest to work together to catch. But Deignan did so much domestique work before we even got here that she must be on her last legs now.
I know. I think Boels Dolmans obviously put their eggs in one basket, but on the day you can have someone having a bad day and someone else having good legs, and Lizzie's got good legs and she just keep riding. And we're not sure here whether Shara Giller can't come through or whether she doesn't want to come through, but so far Lizzie's the only one trying to hold Annemiek van Vleuten, but Annemiek van Vleuten's lead is still going out here.
40 seconds. 53 to Longo Borghini, the rider who we just saw on the road, who will just come into your shot. There she is, right at the top of it in the black jersey with the Italian flag on. I mean, 2.8 kilometres to go. Is this a done deal now? Has Van Vleuten done this 40 seconds?
I think so. I think she's looking incredibly strong, and Lizzie has been working this whole climb. So unless Shara Giller does something and comes out of that wheel and makes an attack, I can't see anybody challenging Annemiek van Vleuten. It's an incredible dominant performance here. Here she is in her skin suit, riding her own rhythm, looking really good.
Well, the Dutch star very experienced on the road. Remember heartbreak at the Olympic Games. Bounced straight back there after it could have been so much worse. It was a horrific looking accident she suffered on the descent from the mountain in Rio de Janeiro. Just 2.5 kilometres of mighty mountain separate Annemiek van Vleuten and eternal greatness. The climb up the Izoard, a unique event. There's just 67 kilometres, a drag race to the foot of a mountain that is etched into the history books in cycling, and Van Vleuten looks to be set to be the first person to win at the top of it.
She does. She's on this short descent now, which will bring her up to 2k to go. Is Lizzie on her own?
Oh, she's dropped Shara Giller. So we've got the answer to that. Shara Giller simply couldn't come through and take a turn.
Couldn't
She's
make
cracked.
an attack, couldn't come through. And Lizzie, this is amazing. We're just starting to see her grit her teeth a little bit. She has done the whole climb on the front at her own pace from the bottom. Riders have dropped off her wheel. One rider could get away from her, and here she is on her own, riding at her own rhythm, about to approach that short descent coming up to 2k to go.
Well, a lot of riders distanced very early on. We've seen the likes of Ashley Moolman-Pasio, one of the big favourites, gone. Nivea Doma, another rider up there, gone. Shara Giller's put in a brilliant ride, the Australian. Oh, problems for Van Vleuten. Now, that looked like it possibly was mechanical.
Yeah, she might have just slipped into the big ring for that short descent and then struggled to get back out of it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, chain.
Looks to have gotten control of it again.
Yep, she's sorted. She's got a big enough gap here. She's absolutely flying.
Lizzie Deignan then on that faster section. Again, just changing down, as you can see it going uphill once more. Back into the little ring.
Now, what gap is Lizzie gonna close this down to Annemiek van Vleuten now? Because it's looking like Annemiek's going to win the race, but the time gaps are all going to count ahead of Saturday's race in Marseille.
Yep, it's that thing that we saw in the Hammer Series, the chase, very strange pursuit on the road. Not quite sure how it's going to go. It's going to be exciting, we know that, as we see Van Vleuten. Can she keep this going? She's got to spin away. 34 seconds of a gap. Coming
down slightly, so Lizzie's obviously going well. Lizzie hasn't blown yet. She's Shara Giller seems to have gone back quite a long way, but Lizzie still tapping up a good rhythm, still keeping that just over that 30-second gap, but it will leave it all to play for in Marseille on Saturday. And hellish climbing still to come. The final kilometre as an average gradient, not just a single section, but an average gradient of 10%. It's a brutal final kilometre, and you don't even see the top until the final bend, just a matter of metres to go till the top. But here we can see Alyssa Longo Borghini coming past Shara Giller now.
So Sciarragillo really did crack. Sciarragillo has cracked, and Longo Borghini is riding away back. Now then, 55 seconds it says to Group 2 there. This is Group 3, so wow, 56 seconds now for Annemiek van Vleuten.
Wow,
is Lizzie Deignan in trouble? That's the question. If that gap is growing so dramatically, has Lizzie Deignan run into some trouble? Well, she looks to be controlled at 52 seconds now. It's funny, isn't it? Changing back up to the big ring again, little ring, might just affect your rhythm.
Yeah, Annemiek is absolutely fine. Lizzie still seems to be riding well here. There's still a long way to go up this hill, but look at that landscape. It's all the trees have gone. A bit of a lunar landscape up there.
It is very unique in this part of the world, actually, as well. It's a single part of the Alps where you can only find this rock. I mentioned the name earlier on, not found elsewhere in this part of the Alps. Now 43 seconds. You can see that Longo Borghini has Deignan up in her sights again. We saw earlier that Longo Borghini seemed to be riding to power, didn't she? She wasn't really prepared to go into the red.
She's tapping at her own rhythm. She knows how long this climb is. She knows at these altitudes you can't go into the red too early. She knows you need to respect that, and she's doing a brilliant performance here. She was gone from the group early, but now she's taking them off one by one and could threaten Lizzie Deignan for second place here.
Well, 41 seconds for Annemiek van Vleuten. She's coming up to the Flamme Rouge. She has a very good gap. She's powering away up the steep gradients of the Izoire and is about to write her name in the history books. I'll tell you what, though, the Dutch like this event, don't they? Marianne Vos, 2014 on the Champs-Élysées. Anna van der Breggen, a year after 2015. The only non-Dutch winner we've had so far has been Chloe Hosking. It looks as though, unless something dramatic happens here in the final kilometre, we're going to have the third Dutch winner in 4 years, this time on completely a different course.
The Dutch women are incredibly strong. I can't imagine how to get selected for the World Championships if you're Dutch, because there are so many riders that are world class over varying different terrain. And to race a domestic race in Holland is one of the hardest races you'll do, because just the general standard of racing there is so high. So it's no surprise they've got so many world class riders coming out of that country.
Into the final K then, just a few hundred metres now for Annemiek van Vleuten, the rider from the Netherlands riding for Orica Scott, the Australian team. They came here with a two-pronged approach. It worked very well for them. They hid in the peloton. They didn't do any work on the front to chase down any of the breaks early on. Spratt was there towards the front. Van Vleuten hid towards the back. And as we got to the tasty gradients, Van Vleuten flew off the front, and then the pace of the race changed completely.
Yeah, Lizzie followed her for her first attack, but second attack, that was it. She was gone and no one could stay with her at all. Lizzie Deignan is still tapping at her own rhythm here, still holding second place.
Lizzie Deignan still there in the British Champions jersey. This has been some ride for the Yorkshire woman. Here's Elisa Longo Borghini, pardon me, the Italian champion. Just coming up to the final kilometre, in third place at the minute. I think that Sciarragillo is still in fourth, but she seemed to have cracked pretty sort of violently, really. She completely almost came to a swinging standstill.
This has been a great ride by Elisa Longo Borghini. She's kept her own rhythm, and now she's got herself back onto the podium here. She can maintain this position.
Longo Borghini was fifth in the Women's World Tour standings at the start of the day. Remember, the leader, Anna van der Breggen, is not riding the race today. Second place, Kasia Niewiadoma, struggling further down the mountain. Here is Lizzie Deignan.
These are the last few hairpins here where you keep thinking the top's going to be round the next one, but it isn't quite round that next one. And you do eventually get there, but these are very painful few metres here where you keep thinking it must be, but it's not.
Well, all the talk of maybe missing out of the crowds and the attention on the Champs-Élysées. Look at the crowds up here at the top of the Izoire. It's absolutely incredible. Lizzie Deignan further down the mountain. I can tell you that there are hordes of people at the top.
It is an incredible climb, and there would have been people leaving very early this morning to try and get up there, try and get ahead of this race before the roads closed to get their spot at the top there today.
A lot of the roads were closed from 8:30 this morning.
We had some leave our hotel at 7 AM this morning, so yeah, early start. But they were off, they were keen, they were going to be there.
300 metres for Anna van der Breggen. She'll be being, for Annemiek van Vleuten, pardon me, she'll be being told now exactly what the score is on the radio. Annemiek van Vleuten, 2 hours, 6.5 minutes into a wonderful ride up there and ready to take the win in La Course by Le Tour de France. Van Vleuten an average speed of 31.97. It's been a brutal ride, full gas from the off, and Orica Scott have ridden this perfectly. 150 metres or so to go for Annemiek van Vleuten. Turn around, she's going to see the finish line in just a moment's time. There's no let up in the gradient, but she knows she's done it. Hands in the air now as they bang on the board for Orica Scott and Annemiek van Vleuten. It was her attack that was never matched by anybody. They try behind, but finally she sits up as the winner, arms aloft, and Annemiek van Vleuten wins La Course on the top of the mighty Isoire, the first to ever win a bike race at the top. Second place, though, to Lizzie Deignan. And Joe, this is some ride.
This is incredible by her. I don't think anybody named her as a favourite for the podium before this. We all thought she'd be working for a teammate, but she's got the form. And here, the last few bends looking like it's going to be just over 30 seconds to Annemiek van Vleuten, but leaving her all to play for on Saturday as well. But an incredible climb by Lizzie. She's gritting her teeth now, but this is an amazing performance by her.
Superb performance. She's going to come in as she zips up her British Champions jersey. The former world star on the road. It's going to be 42 seconds down, and that is the difference that she'll start with on the road at the weekend. Look at this from Longo Borghini. Remember, we are in play for the time trial on Saturday and the chase as well. All of that we'll talk about when we are with you again on Saturday. Please check your schedules and remember to watch us then as well, as Elisa Longo Borghini looks ready to take third place at just over a minute down. The victory has gone to Annemiek van Vleuten. Second place for Lizzie Deignan of Great Britain. Third here for Elisa Longo Borghini, and Megan Guarnier has recovered to take fourth. And it will be fifth, we think, for Shara Giller.
Megan's made an incredible comeback there, leaving Balsdamer's 2 in the top 4, which is going to be making it exciting on Saturday.
And look at this, Kasia Niewiadoma recovering as well. We're going to have some very, very tight racing up there. In fact, it's the rider from Orica Scott and Amanda Spratt who's made it. Niewiadoma a bit further down the mountain. Lauren Stevens across the line just after Amanda Spratt, but the win has gone to Annemiek van Vleuten at the top of the mighty Isoire. What a race we've seen today, full gas from the off, a great advert for short races, a great advert for this new type of race, and here is how it's finished. Annemiek van Vleuten of the Netherlands and Orica Scott taking a 43-second victory over Lizzie Deignan, with Elisa Longo Borghini finishing in third.
And hopefully the start of more women's races in the mountains as well. So a short stage, but really exciting from the off. Attack after attack after attack. Change in leadership in one of the most dominant teams as well. And an incredible win for Annemiek van Vleuten.
Delight for Annemiek van Vleuten. Another victory to add to the 30 in her career up to now. And she's conquered the mighty Isoire, a feat at the end of a race not achieved by anybody until today.
No, it's a first. She's in the history books, and I hope this is the start for more racing like this for women, more on TV, more broadcast, and more racing in these sort of mountains.
You can certainly say that we've been definitely entertained. Exhaustion after the excitement and relief, coupled with the delight of winning. Annemiek van Vleuten has given everything on the bike. She can hardly walk to the podium. This is the scene at the top. And okay, we didn't have Anna van der Breggen. We didn't have the leader of the World Tour. We didn't have the winner of the Giro d'Italia, but we didn't need her. We had a wonderful time. And I think we're going to hear from the winner.
Race so high.
Yeah, I think it's the first time for me. Oh yeah, second time I did in Stelvio uphill finish, but to finish here on the Tour de France and with so many people, it's amazing. And especially, you know that before I was not a climber, but since the Rio Olympic Games was the first time that I really did climb really at everyone uphill, and that inspired me to focus a bit more on the climbs, and that they organize now this uphill finish in the Tour de France for the girls on these rides. That's great.
Was it a tactic to attack with 4.5 kilometers to go?
I have to be honest, I regret it a bit halfway that I went so early. It's a bit double tactics in my mind because we have the pursuit on Saturday, so it's better if you have some time in front also. And I did know like everyone is hurting at the moment, so maybe it's just better to go and if you wait too long they make it more easy for the other girls. And but if I have the legs, I will test my legs, then it's good to go early.
Thank you. She tested her legs, she was good to go. It sounded a lot more simple when she said it in the interview, didn't it? It was absolutely enthralling performance.
Well, it's interesting how before Rio that she didn't really believe in herself as a climber, but since that race, which obviously ended in disaster for her, she realised actually